4 years ago, while billions of people were getting an experimental drug, the United Nations announced their goal to get the entire world on digital IDs by the year 2030, which is a stated part of their Sustainable Development 2030 agenda.
The United Nations is ready to digitally transform how it deals with identity, with a system to streamline information sharing, daily workflows, access to platforms and buildings, operating across agencies, by providing its personnel with a universal, system-wide identity solution. Introducing the UN Digital ID, a unique and digital identity for UN personnel from the day you join to the day you part. All of your personal, HR, medical, travel, security, payroll and pension data in the palm of your hand, giving you full control on what you share and with whom. With blockchain and biometrics, the UN Digital ID makes verification efficient, secure, transparent, immutable, portable and universal. It's been piloted by different agencies and the UN Pension Fund, where they've replaced current manual processes with certainty for who and where pension recipients say they are at any given time. As innovation transforms the world, we can improve the way we manage our identities online. UN Digital IDs, a building block for digital cooperation, unlocking the promise of the SDGs.
About 5 years before that, presidential candidate Donald Trump stated that this was also his goal.
We will finally complete the biometric entry-exit visa tracking system, which we need desperately. In my administration, we will ensure that this system is in place. And I will tell you, it will be on land, it will be on sea, it will be in air. We will have a proper tracking system.
The main purpose of opening the borders was to create chaos so that order in the form of a digital ID system would be tolerated. In order for a biometric border system to work, everyone will obviously need to be in the system. And the Trump administration is using tariffs to compel foreign nations to comply. After threatening to impose harsher tariffs on Colombia, the Statement of Intent for Biometric Cooperation was drafted between the U.S. and Colombia. After returning from this trip, U.S. Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem said that she met with Mexican President Sheinbaum about sharing biometric data in exchange for ending tariffs.
Do you think the Mexican president, you talked to her, is doing enough to defeat the cartels down there?
You know, we talked extensively about that. I gave her some options of more she could do. And I asked her specifically to share biometric information with us. And she's willing to discuss that, even though that in her country would be a little bit controversial. But she's putting a good faith effort. But President Trump is clear. He doesn't want people to keep talking. He wants to see action. And she has an opportunity to do some things that I will give a report to the president on and see if we can deal with the tariff situation that may be facing her people.
As a result of this, several laws went into effect last week in Mexico that will require the CURP, Mexico's 18-character version of the U.S. Social Security number, to include a QR code containing biometric data of both fingerprints and retinal scans. These new digital IDs will be monitored by the new Unified Identity Platform Agency, and biometric data will be shared with both Mexican and U.S. government agencies. The new biometric CURP will be legally required to purchase internet and mobile service, and changes to Mexico's telecommunications law will force internet service providers to share users' real-time geolocation data with Mexican authorities, allowing them the ability to shut down service and block digital platforms for failing to comply with regulatory provisions. Greg Reese reporting.
For unique perspectives in Christian truth and one-of-a-kind Bible studies, please visit our website, truthhuntershow.com. Help us get around big tech censorship on YouTube, Facebook, and others by subscribing to our website. You can do so by entering your email address right here and click subscribe. Another option is click the subscribe button in the bottom right-hand corner, and you'll get a pop-up where you can enter your email address here and click subscribe. To support the work of the Truth Hunters, simply scroll down the page and you'll see ways that you can contribute by PayPal, Patreon, and Venmo. Thank you very much. Hello, everyone, and welcome. You have reached the Diamond Report Live once again with your host, Doug Diamond. Hope you guys are doing well this week. It is July 27th, 2025, 10:06 p.m. Hope you guys have had a good week since we were here last. It doesn't seem like a week's gone by, but man, it sure flew by. So welcome, everyone. Hello to everybody in the chat. And, let's take a look at the news. We've got lots to look at again tonight. You can see all the tabs across the top of my screen. I always say that, but I like to point that out just because there's a lot of stuff to talk about. And of course, we're only barely breaching the actual news cycle going on here. But we do what we can in 3 hours. We've got about that probably tonight. I don't know, give or take a little bit. So feel free to come and go as you guys want. But this final full show will be up tomorrow at some point, hopefully tomorrow on the major platforms. Except for YouTube. The YouTube one will take me an extra day because I have to go through and edit out all of the medical misinformation, of which you can be assured there will definitely be some tonight, for sure. That's always the way it goes. So yes, thanks, Miss Emily, and welcome back, Miss Emily. Thank you for posting the Truth Hunters Show link there in the chat. Yes, please make sure you're subscribed on that platform, and totally free. And while you're at it, subscribe to my Substack too, if you don't mind. It's diamonddisc.substack.com in the black box up there in the corner. So that is how you can keep in touch with what I'm doing. And let's take a look at the news. We've got Hal Turner radio show pulled up. I just thought this one was kind of interesting. Putin says to the collective West, "Who do you think you are?" Yeah, well, he should know, shouldn't he? Russian President Vladimir Putin, speaking before a crowded auditorium, told the gathered citizens, "All we ever hear is, you must, you have to, and we're warning you. But who do you think you are?" The Russian people have figured out about the West. They have forgotten their place, and those same Russians are coming to the conclusion, time for a reminder, according to Hal here. So this is the actual clip here. It's subtitled. Of course, it's in his native tongue as he's speaking it. So yeah, all we ever hear is, you must, you have to, and we're warning you. That's what the West tells him. Turns out Russia is the largest nuclear superpower in the entire world, way larger than the U.S. But I guess they're supposed to capitulate and do everything that we tell them to do. Seems to be where it's going. And of course, says who? You know, the bully generally is the one that gets beat up, isn't he? Typically. So anyway, let's take a look at the next article on Hal's site. Bulletin, French nuclear submarine source code stolen. So if you wanted some good news, I guess this would not be it. Naval Group. This is the image here on Hal's site. Just days after announcing support to Gaza, France's largest defensive shipbuilder, the Naval Group, got hacked. Criminal hackers claim responsibility for the attack. The hackers have allegedly given Naval Group 72 hours to pay a ransom, or all the data will be leaked online for free. Let's take some guesses here in chat. Who do you suppose the hackers were? From what country do you think the hackers originated? Keep in mind, France just recently came out in support of Gaza and the Palestinians. So I'll give you one guess in the chat. Let's see who gets it right. What country would be behind this? I mean, it's as obvious as the nose on my face. Go on, take a guess. The hackers allegedly possess approximately 1 terabyte of internal data, including classified CMS source code, deployment guides for submarines and frigates, network data, technical documents marked with classifications like restricted distribution in special France, developer virtual machines with naval simulators, and intercepted internal communications. 13 gigabyte sample of the leak has reportedly been shared to prove that the hackers do have the actual information. Again, what country do you suppose? Yep, Emily got it. Of course. So did Shofar News. Way to go. Is there anyone else that could really be? Anyone at all? Israel. Obviously. Israel has the Mossad, of course. They have some of the most high-tech cyber systems worldwide, probably the most, actually. And of course, they're the ones that hacked here. They hacked the French naval group systems here. It says a research team reviewed portions of the sample and concluded that it does appear to contain legitimate naval group materials. Among the leaked files were multimedia assets, including video from what happens to be a submarine monitoring interface. However, that video was dated 2003, which raises questions about the timeliness and potential operational relevance of some of the data. Researchers also found excerpts from CMS data and contractual information related to defense systems detailed that, if valid, could pose a serious national security risk to France and the wider European defense landscape. So I wonder who it was. You suppose it was Emmanuel or Brigitte whose fault this was? I'm just joking, but we're going to look at that in a little bit as well. What Candace Owens has to say to the Macrons recently. But it's interesting how this story has now come up to sort of cover up the Brigitte Macron is a man story. It's interesting how everything is tied together, isn't it? And no surprise. And then one more from House site, UK. Diversity strikes again. Muslim maniac threatens to bomb a plane while in flight. So yet again, with somebody screaming on a loaded plane here, a maniac Muslim aboard a EasyJet flight in the United Kingdom got out of his seat and started yelling, "I'm going to bomb the plane. Death to America and to Trump. Allah Akbar." Video below. The man was quickly tackled by other passengers and held down on the floor. According to online social media accounts, the plane made an emergency landing so the police could arrest the man. Yeah, but it was in the UK, so you know they probably gave the guy an award when he got off the plane. I'm also told there's not a single word about this in any media inside the United Kingdom. I'm told this is because the government actively hides the crimes committed by the immigrants that they allow into the country, which is what I was just saying. That's why I'm saying they probably gave him an award when he got off the plane. Readers from the UK are encouraged to spread a link to this story so their fellow citizens can see what their government and the media is deliberately hiding from them. So you guys want to see it? It's a short clip. So let's take a look here.
The plane! Going to bomb the plane! Dead to America! Dead to Trump! Allah Akbar! Allah Akbar! Allah Akbar! Allah Akbar! Allah Akbar!
Oh my God.
Sit down. Don't move.
How about that? The old Hulk Hogan grab and slam kind of thing. They got him and threw him down. They weren't going to put up with that. So, who knows? But yeah, it's not being reported in the UK media, of course. Big shocker. So if you guys have any friends in the UK, maybe send them this article on Hal's website or a clip out of this show if you want to, or just send them the link to this show. They'll see it. We're still at the beginning of the show. It won't be buried 3 hours later. It's near the beginning, so that's good. Anyway, yeah, of course it's going to be buried because they want to keep all of their vaunted illegals and migrants and stuff in the UK. They want to keep them protected. They could care less about the citizens of the UK. They don't care, as we all know. All right, and then let's see. Need to know.news. Brace for soaring electricity bills. Biggest U.S. power grid sets power costs at record high to feed AI. We've been talking about this a lot on the show. Just all of the power that's going to be needed for all of these data centers across the country. America's largest power grid, PJM Interconnect, serves 65 million people across 13 states and Washington, D.C., and it recently issued multiple maximum generation alerts this summer due to air conditioning usage across the eastern half of the U.S. That would be because it's so hot, and it is summer. However, the deeper issue is that there's simply not enough baseload juice to feed the relentless, ravenous growth of power-hungry AI servers and server racks at new data centers. AI data centers are driving the biggest surge in U.S. electric demands in decades, leading to higher residential utility bills. New facilities are consuming as much power as towns or small cities, coinciding with a wave of older power plants shutting down. Although it was not addressed in the article, water is a major concern as AI uses significant amounts of water to cool the servers in the data centers. So you can thank Musk and Trump and everyone else at the top who is pushing all this AI stuff to be built. You can thank them, in part at least, for your higher electricity bills this summer. Of course, everyone's got their air conditioners cranked up as well. That doesn't help any. So you can thank the geo-engineers too, I suppose, just because it's so hot lately. So anyway, yeah, needtoknow.news, and then one more from this site. Mike Rowe, you remember him from TV, discusses AI destroying white-collar jobs while 7 million blue-collar jobs go unfulfilled. Mike Rowe, author, TV host, and narrator, said, here he is right here if you've forgotten who he is. He was on Fox News, I guess. Said that AI is coming for white-collar jobs that include writing, accounting, law, coding, and more. As in, when I say coding, I mean like, computer coding, web coding, and so forth. Meanwhile, there are millions of blue-collar jobs available. He said that currently the energy sector needs 500,000 workers, and manufacturing has an additional 500,000 jobs unfilled. In addition, the American submarine industrial base needs 140,000 welders and electricians, while the automotive industry needs 80,000 collision repair and technicians. So how about that? Again, nothing is manufactured really in this country anymore. So that's part of what he's saying here, in addition to the jobs that are being transitioned from white to blue collar, I guess. Rowe pointed out that there are currently 7.6 million open positions in the country right now. The problem is that there is a will gap and a declining birth rate. You ever heard of a will gap? Those willing to do the job? White-collar jobs have been elevated over blue-collar work. 5 tradesmen retire every year and only 2 will replace them. Shop classes were yanked out of schools and the workforce is out of balance. Who here took shop in high school? I can say that I did. I can't tell you that I remember very much about it. I think I made a car and like a little wooden car and several other things. But yeah, we had shop class, but they've long since gotten rid of that. But yes, the blue-collar jobs will still be there, at least to some degree. Now, I disagree a little bit with that just because we've all seen the assembly line plants of like Tesla and some of the other car manufacturers who are almost 100% automated with their assembly lines of the various cars. So that is where that is headed. Although not every job can be done by a robot and AI. There's really no question about that. There are certain jobs that are probably fairly safe from being outsourced to AI, but white-collar jobs are not part of them. Most of those things will be replaced. Most of those gigs will be replaced eventually. But we'll see where it all ends up. But it's not looking too good as far as that goes. Real life drama: Tucker County residents versus AI data center behemoth. First came the sleepy community at harmony with nature. Then came the secrecy surrounding the behemoth data center to build a 10,000-acre self-powered AI facility. Self-powered. Then came the legislation to exempt it from local regulation. Then came cries of anguish from local residents as they realized that their total way of life had been stolen from them. This is playing out all over America. Wherever the AI data center crowd shows up, they trample on land use laws and citizens. I think that does seem to be what's going on. So a little bit more here to that article, obviously, including some screenshots and things like that. If you guys want to get into this particular story, there's a lot here as far as the data centers versus the people. So it seems to be a lot going on with that whole thing. So that's a technocracy.news article. And then this one, Trump the technocrat releases America's AI action plan and launches the AI.gov website. You may remember that several weeks ago now, probably 2 or 3 shows back, I went to AI.gov because there was an article about it. I wanted to see what it was exactly and kind of peruse the website Turns out AI.gov was just linking directly back to White House, the White House website. And it wasn't functional at that time. However, now it is. So we'll look at it here in just a second. The White House has just released its official policy document, America's AI Action Plan, defining the future of AI development. Admittedly, Trump doesn't have any real understanding of AI, but he has totally caved into the technocrats that he appointed in the first place. I think that's 100% true, don't you guys? Indeed, technocracy is being forced down our throats whether we want it or not. Yeah, exactly. Because the people at the top will make their billions and to you know where with the rest of us. And then AI.gov, the digital Leviathan, goes live. So this is the other article I have pulled up from this site, technocracy.news. You can't say enough about AI.gov and Trump's simultaneous release of America's AI Action Plan. Read it, study it, reread it, internalize it. This culminates the first 6 months of Trump's race to install full-blown technocracy in America. All the groundwork is finished. AI is unregulated. Data centers are being erected and electrified. States are hamstrung. AI is being installed in every agency, plus the architecture for the new financial system is in place. Yes, starting 15 years ago, Patrick here, who authored this article, repeatedly and specifically warned that this day would come. I told America that the dark horse of globalization is not communism, socialism, or fascism. It is technocracy. And then he says he's reached tens of millions of listeners over this time frame, and almost all turned away from the message and the messenger. Don't make that same mistake again, Patrick Wood is saying here. Patrick's a good guy. He was a guest several times on Lost Arts Radio, and got to talk to him once or twice, so that was always fun. And he's the person that runs this site, puts out some good information, probably the leading source on technocracy, and has been for a long time. So let's take a look at AI.gov. What is it? Well, it used to be when you typed in AI.gov, you would get the White House website because the site wasn't functional yet. Now it actually does work. So maybe bookmark this site so you can go through it later. So, of course, you get Trump and the AI.gov logo. And as I scroll down, his picture gets larger and larger. And then we have the AI Action Plan. The United States is in a race to achieve global dominance in artificial intelligence. Whoever has the largest AI ecosystem will set the global standards and reap broad economic and security benefits. Under President Trump, our nation will win, ushering in a new golden age of innovation, human flourishing, and technological achievement for the American people. America's AI Action Plan has 3 policy pillars: accelerating innovation, building AI infrastructure, and leading international diplomacy and security. See it in action. Then there's a button here that takes you to another page on the site called the Action Plan. So that's the top part of the website here. Executive orders that he has issued and the dates that he did so. Promoting the export of the American AI technology stack is one of them. Accelerating federal permitting of data center infrastructure is another. And then there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 more. So there are some different EOs that he has put out there. United States of America and the leader in AI, and our administration plans to keep it that way. So, you know, the battle here is obviously between the U.S. and China. And, of course, you know, the U.S. wants to win that battle. Because if the U.S. doesn't head it up, then China certainly will. But in my opinion, it's the globalists who will actually run the show. Because that's the way it always is, isn't it? Case in point, the entire Epstein thing. That whole debacle. So the globalists are running that just like they're going to be running this, which puts us back to the mark of the beast and the beast system, because that is what's being built before us here. AI education, presidential AI challenge, pledge to America's youth investing in AI. These are all other links to those particular subjects. So that is all that's on the home page here of the site. And then here are the various links here as well. Same ones essentially. So that is AI.gov. That's it in a nutshell. Of course, we didn't look at every single thing here on the site. We just looked at the main page, but you guys can take a look at it, maybe bookmark it, and go read through some of this stuff, because we will all be affected by this to some degree. Unless we're not on the planet anymore, we will be, because that's just going to be the way it is. I mean, there's really no question about it. The Bible talks about, the beast system, the mark of the beast, and all of that is part of this entire build out of the beast system that we are seeing and that we have been seeing for some time. So AI.gov might be a good place to start for further research on some of that. So anyway, okay, Liberty Beacon articles. RFK Jr. calls genocide allegations in Gaza a blood libel. It says in an article, John Spencer said that genocide isn't defined by comments taken out of context, casualties, or social media. Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. said that the accusations of genocide in Gaza are a blood libel in a post on the social media platform X. Earlier this week, the Urban Warfare Studies chief of the Modern War Institute at West Point, John Spencer, published an article titled, "I'm a war scholar. There is no genocide in Gaza." Yes, and water is not wet and the sky is not blue. Anyway, Kennedy responded to the article saying the genocide charge is a blood libel. Thank you, Major Spencer, for this withering deconstruction. I have interviewed the Prime Minister of Israel and the Defense Minister and the IDF Chief of Staff, Southern Command leadership, and dozens of commanders and soldiers on the front lines, Spencer wrote. Again, the guy that penned the article here. I have reviewed their orders, watched their targeting process, and seen soldiers take real risks to avoid harming citizens. Yeah, when they're not literally shooting little kids. Nothing I have seen or studied resembles genocide or genocidal intent. That would be because, in my opinion, he must have had his eyes closed. The U.S. is currently trying to end the ongoing war in Gaza between Israel and Hamas. So says this. Earlier this week, Trump had his special envoy for peace mission, Steve Witkoff, announced that the U.S. would withdraw from Gaza ceasefire talks, citing frustrations with Hamas, not with Netanyahu. The U.S. is not the only country pushing for an end to the war in the Middle East, which has caused starvation in Gaza due to disruptions in sending food and other aid into the territory. More than 30 other countries issued a joint statement on Monday calling for an immediate end to the war and the release of all remaining hostages. Yeah, well, good luck with that one. Because it's only been going on for, hundreds and hundreds of years at this point. Yeah, I don't think so. But anyway, yeah, they're saying that there's no such thing as genocide in Gaza. It doesn't exist. You're crazy. So that would be called gaslighting. All right, Jerusalem Post. All of Gaza will be Jewish. All of Gaza will be Jewish. Heritage Minister claims Israel working to resettle Gaza. You mean to tell me that they went in and bombed Gaza just to rebuild Israel on top of Gaza? Surely not. The government is rushing to erase Gaza, and thank God we are erasing this evil. All of Gaza will be Jewish. This guy says, Eliyahu stated in this interview. So yes, they're not erasing the evil, they're spreading the evil. So you just got to reverse what he's saying here. Heritage Minister Eliyahu suggested Israel is planning to resume Jewish settlement in Gaza in a Thursday morning interview on the radio. The government is rushing to erase Gaza, and thank God we are erasing this evil. Note, he's saying thank God. I think he's talking about the God of this world, don't you? All of Gaza will be Jewish, he says. We don't need to be concerned about hunger in the Strip. We have completely lost our minds. Well, that's true. They have lost their minds. Opposition head Yair Lapid responded to Eliyahu's statement saying his words are a moral attack and a propaganda disaster. Israel will never convince the world of the justice of our war against terror as long as we are led by an extremist minority government with ministers who sanctify blood and death. IDF soldiers do not fight, are killed and injured to wipe out a civilian population. They fight to return the kidnapped and ensure Israel's security, Lapid said. So there you go, of course. And you can believe him. He's an Israeli. Anyway, yeah, so of course they're going to work to resettle Gaza. That was the entire reason for bombing it back to the Stone Age to begin with. Anyway, it's being admitted here by this guy. Not that surprising, actually. 20 CIA and FBI agents confirm Obama was behind Russia hoax, the Russia hoax, and reveal his hiding place. Nothing we're about to tell you is going to be shocking, at least not for anyone who's been paying attention. From the very beginning, it was obvious the Russia hoax wasn't some organic intelligence concern. It was a manufactured psyop, carefully orchestrated to destroy Trump's candidacy, sabotage his presidency, and gaslight half the country into becoming Russia-obsessed lunatics. And at the center of it all was Barack Insane Obama. The signs were always there. Anyone with half a brain knew it. Hillary may have sparked the lie, but Obama and his media cronies made sure it caught fire, blazing like a bonfire with gasoline thrown on it, and turning the federal government and every major news outlet into a propaganda machine. They poisoned the public, they divided the nation, and they did it all on purpose, even though they knew it was all a lie. And now, thanks to Tulsi Gabbard and her declassified disclosures, we finally have the receipts to prove it. Not only was Putin not trying to help Trump win in 2016, our own intelligence showed he assumed Hillary was going to win and was preparing to blackmail her with intel he'd collected that included material suggesting that she was a drugged-up bipolar mess, doped up on tranquilizers and unfit to lead. You may remember some of the pictures of her being, thrown into a black van, and when she was barely able to walk. Here, Tulsi Gabbard's 6-minute press conference, the one that could go down as one of the most important in U.S. political history. So that's embedded here. But now we move on to the real bombshell. According to the new reporting on Fox News, 20 CIA and FBI agents have now confirmed, have now confirmed that Obama didn't just know about the Russia hoax, he ran it. And to keep it buried, he locked the evidence away in a CIA vault where it sat hidden for nearly a decade. So see, this tweet here is saying Barack Obama is so effed. I don't think so. He's got presidential immunity. He will not do a moment's worth of time in any jail. And that's saying that anybody's even going to get prosecuted, which obviously that hasn't really happened, materialized much at all lately since Trump has gotten in. He talks about it, but nothing ever happens. So again, don't hold your breath in that instance. But Obama himself has presidential immunity. He can basically break the law and be totally fine, and nobody can hold him accountable, unfortunately. But it says, yes, Obama could be in some very hot water. Could be is the official word there. Even Trump has come out recently and said that there probably is nothing that could be done about Obama. But he did say that the people around him don't have that same immunity, that same protection. So anyway, this is talking about the new DOJ strike forces against Obama and his cronies. So I don't know if anything will come of this. You would like to think so, wouldn't you? But there's so much evidence on all this stuff. In any other normal country where you would have this sort of evidence against people at the top, something probably would happen. However, in this country, you can't really say that, because you have the deep state literally running everything. So my guess is nothing will come of it, but I would love to be wrong on that. But yeah, history has showed us that no one gets prosecuted on stuff like this, unfortunately, even though there's a wealth of evidence. It tends to disappear on Pam Bondi's desk. And where is Pam Bondi's desk? I don't think anyone's even ever seen it. I mean, maybe it's at Fox News. Although I would think if it was at Fox News, she probably would have seen it by now, because that's where she always is. So someone needs to tell her where her desk is so that she can go then read the documents on it and then do something other than just going to Fox News for interviews. Anyway, that is a Revolver.news article. And then this one on LifeZet.com Trump calls for the prosecution of Kamala Harris. Trump has accused Harris and her 2024 presidential campaign of violating federal election laws by allegedly paying millions of dollars to celebrities, including Beyonce, Oprah Winfrey, and Al Sharpton, in exchange for political endorsements. Trump raised the allegation in a post on Truth Social, citing campaign finance records and media reports. And then this is his actual post here. I'm looking at the large amount of money owed by the Democrats after the presidential election, and the fact that they admit to paying, probably illegally, $11 million to singer Beyonce for an endorsement she never sang, not one note, and left the stage to a booing and angry audience. $3 million for expenses, quote unquote, to Oprah. $600,000 to a very low-rated TV anchor, Al Sharpton, a total lightweight, and others to be named for doing absolutely nothing. Trump continued by stating these ridiculous fees were incorrectly stated in the books and the records. But it would be up to Bondi and the Department of Justice, and you can see where that goes. She is, like Maureen Comey, she is whom I'm calling the fixer. She's been put in place to literally do nothing. And so that's what she does. She's really good at doing nothing, meaning Bondi. Anyway, interesting that he's at least calling for the prosecution of Harris. So we'll see what happens. Again, probably nothing. Doge builds AI tool to cut 50% of federal regulations. AI tool. An internal proposal suggests how the Trump administration is planning to slash federal regulations, but obstacles loom. So an AI tool to cut 50% of federal regulations. That's interesting. U.S. Doge service is using a new artificial intelligence tool to slash federal regulations with the goal of eliminating half of Washington's regulatory mandates by the first anniversary of Trump's inauguration, according to documents obtained by the Washington Post and 4 government officials familiar with the plans. The tool, called the Doge AI Deregulation Decision Tool, say that 12 times fast, is supposedly to analyze roughly 200,000 federal regulations to determine which can be eliminated because they are no longer required by law, according to a PowerPoint presentation obtained by the Post dated July 1st, and outlines Doge's plans. Roughly 100,000 of those rules would be deemed worthy of trimming, the PowerPoint estimates, mostly through the automated tool with some staff feedback. PowerPoint also suggested that the AI tool will save the United States trillions of dollars by reducing compliance requirements, slashing the federal budget, and unlocking unspecified, quote, external investment, end quote. Yeah, well, the Democrats and the folks that are in the multiple layers of jobs underneath the president and the various departments, I would think, are not going to want to be cut. So who knows if this will actually happen or not. But it does sound interesting. The tool has already been used to complete decisions on 1,083 regulatory sections at the Department of Housing and Urban Development in under 2 weeks, according to the PowerPoint, and to write 100% of deregulations at the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. 3 HUD employees, as well as documents obtained by the Post, confirmed that the AI tool was recently used to review hundreds, if not more than 1,000 lines of regulations at that agency and suggest edits or deletions. The tool is developed by engineers brought into the government as part of Musk's Doge project, according to 2 federal officials directly familiar with Doge's work, who, like others interviewed for this story, spoke on the condition of anonymity to describe internal deliberations and were not authorized to discuss this publicly. Anyway, kind of interesting. Of course, it's AI. That's the only way they can do it that fast. But, yeah, who knows where it'll go. Hopefully it will result in cutting of some of these regulations that definitely need to be cut. But, yeah, well, I guess we'll see. This is posted by a guy that I follow on X. Charlotte, North Carolina. And this guy, Matt Van Swall, he's a pretty good person to follow, especially if you have been interested in the goings-on, what's happened since the all of the flooding and hurricane news in North Carolina. He's been really good at coverage on all that, just a local guy that lives in that area. He's saying Charlotte, North Carolina Councilwoman Tijuana Brown has filed for re-election after being indicted on federal charges for stealing $115,000 in COVID funds. She allegedly used those funds to throw herself a $15,000 birthday party with a throne and a horse-drawn carriage. So she gets to have $115,000 in COVID funds and a $15,000 birthday party because she knows what bank to rob and knew that no one would ask questions. Well, turns out that she's been indicted on federal charges for stealing the funds, but she's running for re-election anyway, which means she must know she can win by cheating, probably. Anyway, Charlotte, North Carolina. Pretty funny, but very sad, actually. Anyway, we talked about Hulk Hogan, mentioned him earlier. He passed away, made the jump to hyperspace this week. Pro wrestler who became a household name dies at 71. So yeah, Hulk Hogan passed away. There were several celebrity-type people who passed away this week. And I didn't realize he was in Rocky 3, but yeah, it mentions that. Here he is in Rocky 3. I guess probably I didn't realize it because I never saw it. It's like many of you guys. I think I stopped watching after 1 and 2. But yeah, apparently he was in that movie, and he passed away recently. And then a couple of the other articles that I pulled up on folks who have also made the jump to hyperspace. Here's another one, name that you probably know if you ever watched The Cosby Show. Doctor who pulled Malcolm Jamal Warner out of a rough ocean speaks out following the actor's death. Did you guys know Malcolm Jamal Warner drowned while on vacation in Costa Rica? Medical professional who pulled Malcolm Jamal Warner out of the rough Costa Rica ocean where the actor died on Sunday is speaking out about the harrowing scene. The doctor who is asked not to be identified told Us Weekly that he was about 200 meters from the incident. And like Malcolm Jamal Warner, he was on vacation enjoying the day in the town of Playa Grande. Says, according to the doctor, there were very few people on the beach that day, which could have been because the sea was so rough. When he heard the group of people screaming and calling for help, he quickly ran to the area and entered the sea with his surfboard, heading into the rip current toward the person being pointed at by some beachgoers. After a few minutes, the doctor said that he saw a shadow and immediately dove down and pulled the person out. Malcolm Jamal Warner, I guess, being the shadow. When the doctor finally reached the beach with Warner, who had been caught by a high current, he saw another man lying on the sand, struggling to breathe. He was just someone who tried to help during the emergency without any rescue equipment. So we had somebody, I guess, go after Jamal here, Malcolm Jamal Warner, and he himself became overwhelmed. I guess that's why he was laying on the beach, this other guy. Anyway, this says that first responders began providing aid to Malcolm, but he had no vital signs. The doctor said 2 tourists who identified themselves as doctors ran over to help. A few minutes later, Costa Rican Red Cross personnel arrived and used specialized equipment on the Cosby Show star, including a defibrillator, but he did not respond. Warner was pronounced dead at the scene at the age of 54, while the other man was transported to the local medical clinic in critical condition. He has since been released. So the other guy made it. So the rip current's what got him. And then so Malcolm Jamal's 8-year-old daughter was there, but she was okay. She was on the shore when her dad drowned. Warner's cause of death was ruled asphyxiation by submersion, so he drowned. So very sad. From what I gather, I think he was a pretty good, upstanding person, so that's really sad to hear that. Anyway, so that is another death, and we've got 2 more here, believe it or not. Chuck Mangione passed away, jazz legend, known for Feel So Good, dies at 84. 2-time Grammy Award-winning musician Chuck Mangione passed away. in Rochester, New York, in his home. He died in his sleep. Musician, been retired since 2015. Perhaps his biggest hit, Feels So Good, is a staple on most smooth jazz radio stations. So anyway, sad to see that. Mangione was a flugelhorn and trumpet player and jazz composer. Released more than 30 albums during his career. So anyway, that was one of the other deaths here during this last week. And then, of course, the other big one, Ozzy Osbourne, who led Black Sabbath and became the godfather of heavy metal, dies at 76. So he has also made the jump somewhere. I don't know if it was to hyperspace, but obviously not exactly known for his Christian principles, Ozzy Osbourne, the gloomy, demon-invoking lead singer of the pioneering band Black Sabbath, who became the throaty, growling voice and drug and alcohol-ravaged id of heavy metal, died Tuesday, just weeks after his farewell show. He was 76. So yeah, I guess he had Parkinson's. I didn't realize that he did, but says the Big Bang of heavy metal, Black Sabbath's 1969 self-titled debut LP has been likened to the Big Bang of heavy metal. It came during the height of the Vietnam War and crashed the hippie party, dripping menace and foreboding. The cover of the record was of a spooky figure against a stark landscape. The music was loud, dense, and angry. It marked the shift in rock and roll. Yeah, and then I was just scrolling down through here just to look at the pictures. You can see how dark and evil he looks. Look at this, though. Ozzy Osbourne performing at the Commonwealth Games during the closing ceremony, which was all completely occulted, hosted by soon-to-be biblical Antichrist, King Charles III. That was literally his games, the Commonwealth Games. I didn't realize Osbourne sang at that, but he did. And it's interesting that that's one of the pictures in this AP article. So yeah, no way to know where he is right now, but let's hope that he saw the light, although I'm not so sure. I kind of have my doubts on that one, which is sad. I did actually run into Ozzy Osbourne one time in an airport in Los Angeles when I was traveling back and forth. He was there with his son. They were just doing some shopping. I knew who he was. Didn't say anything to him. But that's the only time I ever saw him. Yeah, anyway, thought that was pretty wild that he also passed away. So lots of death this week. Very sad. Anyway, let's keep moving here. So I guess if you need a reason to really dislike flossing, this might be your article. So for you pro-flossers out there, you might want to hear this. Engineers transform dental floss into needle-free. Isn't that nice? New method places inactivated viruses directly into mice's gums. This, of course, would not be a mouse, but flossing may be good for more than getting your dentist off your back. One day, it may also protect you from the flu. This is coming from a mainstream media news source, of course, science.org. It may protect you from the flu. I'll put that in quotes. In an unorthodox approach to needle-free researchers have developed a special kind of floss that can deliver proteins and inactive viruses to mice's gum lines and trigger immune responses that protect against infectious disease. The report today said in Nature Biomedical Engineering. I had honestly never thought of using floss as a strategy, says this person, Iwasaki, an immunologist at Yale, who was not involved in the work. The results are quite impressive, he says. Well, they say. I don't know if it's a he or not. For many years, scientists have tried to develop alternatives to delivering via syringes by turning to the moist areas in your mouth and nose where the most viruses will enter. But it's tough to develop an effective, and these can be administered through those entry points because they have naturally tough defenses. Yes, that's because God created them that way. Against foreign molecules, says Vanderbilt University immunologist James Crow, who was not involved in the work. So they've interviewed all these people who were not involved. Anyway, yeah. So they're literally flossing mice teeth and saying, oh, we're going to humans that way soon too. So anyway, Just thought you'd like to know. So is that the mark of the beast? We shall not floss our teeth? I don't know how that would work exactly, but that's on science.org, and we'll link to all these articles in the Substack posts that I send out later in the week. Later in the week. I don't know. It might be Tuesday. It won't be Monday. It might be Tuesday. It might be Wednesday. Whenever I can get to it. But yeah, it will be soon. And then this is another weird one. Speaking of flossing mice's teeth. I don't know. If you guys are RFK Jr. fans, this one might change your mind. I don't know. This one's kind of creepy. Parasitic sea vampire bites RFK Jr. in health chief's bizarre new stunt. I didn't realize he'd sort of already had some other awkward situations with animals, but apparently he has. This is on Daily Mail. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has found himself in another awkward situation involving animals. On a tour of the Nez Perce salmon hatchery in Idaho on Thursday, RFK Jr. let a parasitic sea vampire, also known as a lamprey, Lamprey, bite his arm until the creature left a hickey behind. The head of the Department of Health and Human Services posted about the bloodletting adventure on X, writing, lampreys, hickeys at the Nez Perce salmon hatchery, while showing off pictures of the experience. Lampreys are jawless fish that look like eels, but are a completely different species. They have a round, sucker-like mouth full of sharp teeth. Oh, I bet they don't have to use floss, though. That they use to latch onto other fish and suck their blood for nourishment. So that's why they're vampires, I guess. Not content with just one hickey, however, RFK Jr. held the roughly 2-foot-long lamprey as they sucked blood from both of his arms, his wrists, and another person nearby. I think he's addicted to having his blood sucked. That's what it sounds like to me. There's no medical, this is the key here, there is no medical or scientific reason for letting the lamprey bite him, leaving many to question the bizarre stunt. The animal's bites can cause injury, infections, and even significant blood loss with prolonged contact. But he apparently likes it. I mean, what is going on here? There's the pictures, if you don't believe me. Just letting them bite him. No thanks. Definitely do not sign me up for that one. Yeah, totally creepy. I mean, what is going on, though? I don't understand why anybody would do that voluntarily. I can see this being more of a story if he was just holding one and it happened to bite him. But nope, he wanted to be bitten. So it kind of makes you wonder about what's going on up there in the old noggin. Maybe a little bit too much methylene blue. We're seeing lots of stuff about him taking methylene blue, which I think is probably totally fine. I'm just kind of joking, but I don't know what's going on there. Very strange. Parasitic sea vampire bites. No thanks. The next story I had pulled up here was a article on the SIFT, which is a section of this website that I usually mention, wng.org. I thought this was kind of interesting and good news overall here. U.S. Olympics and Paralympics quietly changed their transgender policy. So the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Committee updated its safety rules to prevent men from competing in women's sports. How about that? No wonder they had to do it quietly. The change quietly issued in June and first reported Tuesday by the New York Times. Well, if the New York Times reported it, that's not very quiet, is it? Says the committee will collaborate with its 50 national governing bodies and other stakeholders to ensure a fair and safe competition environment. The guidelines now say that the committee's definition of a fair environment is consistent with the Donald Trump February executive order, keeping men out of women's sports, as well as legislation establishing the United States Olympic Committee. The executive order directs the Secretary of State to rescind support for and participation in sports programs that classify female competition categories based on so-called gender identity and not sex. Are there any exceptions to the policy? The provision in the Olympics and Paralympics guidelines allow the committee's Office of Athlete Safety to make exceptions to the definition of a participant in limited circumstances, thus changing who must follow its rules. The guidelines don't include further specifics about how the exceptions would work. So that might be their out right there. They can still make an exception. What does this mean for the Olympic Committee's governing bodies? USA Fencing, which we've mentioned before on this show, a governing body under the Olympic and Paralympic Committee's jurisdiction, on July 18th, changed its policy for fencers who identify as transgender or non-binary. Its women's fencing events are now only available to biological women, while people professing other genders and other gender identities may enter men's competitions. Oh, I see. USA Fencing said the committee in July ordered all its subsidiaries to change their policies in compliance with Trump's order. A female fencer this spring was disqualified for refusing to compete in a match against a male. That's the story that we reported on previously on this show, months ago at this point. So anyway, it sounds like the trans people can still compete, but they have to compete in the men's category. So if you have women pretending to be men, they will get trounced by actual men. So I think that's okay. If you have men pretending to be women, they would have to compete against men, and they're still going to get trounced. Otherwise, why would they be doing what they're doing? So I think that's good news overall. And then kind of a follow-up story to that, USA Volleyball complies with Trump's executive orders, bans trans athletes from girls and women's competition. So again, this is the kind of stuff that I always go back to this. You would not see this in a Kamala Harris administration. So this is good news. Yes, Trump is doing some terrible things overall. We have the entire technocracy coming in. But at least you have women playing against women in volleyball. And at least the border's closed. And at least the fentanyl has pretty much stopped coming in. At least illegal fentanyl. Still coming in legally, I guess. USA Volleyball has become the latest organization to change its gender eligibility policy to align itself with Trump's executive order. So that's kind of all I really need to say here. But that's yet again another athletic competition where hopefully women will be able to compete against themselves and not have to compete unfairly against biological males. That's, I think, good news. All right, and then some of the headlines on information liberation for this week. Trump says he is allowed to pardon Ghislaine Maxwell. He did say that, but he did say that it's something that he's not thought about. I don't really think he would do that. I think that would be political suicide if he did. Although she might get some leniency. We'll look at that a little bit later, but she is being talked to here. So we'll come back to that in a few. AIPAC-funded reps seek crackdown on anti-Semitism with bill to censor social media. So I saw this earlier. Let me open up this article because I wanted to point out something that's really funny. Struck me as really funny. Now, you guys may not care, but you do know my sense of humor. So that's why I thought this was funny. So we have three people here pictured, and this guy you've probably seen before. This is the head of the, well, they're officially called the Anti-Defamation League. So the ADL, right? But I call them the Defamation League because they're really about defaming people. That's really what they do. Get this. So this is the bill that has been introduced. A bipartisan pair of AIPAC-funded congressmen have introduced a new Anti-Defamation League-backed bill to censor social media sites as a way to crack down on anti-Semitism, which apparently is the absolute worst possible crime anyone could ever commit in the history of the world. So I say that jokingly, but that's the way it's being portrayed. This bill will force social media companies to pay fines up to $5 million a day for failing to comply with their censorship and spying demands. So the social media companies pay up, right? $5 million a day. So like if Facebook got held liable for someone's quote anti-Semitism based post, they would have to pay the ADL $5 million per day. They're trying to sell the censorship bill as a measure to fight quote terrorists, but it's clearly aimed at censoring free speech of anyone critical of Jews in Israel. Jonathan Greenblatt, the CEO of the ADL, that's who's pictured here. That's who this guy is. Now, these two congressmen are Reps Josh Gottheimer and Don Bacon. Don Bacon. So I never did hear, though, if he's kosher or not. So I don't know. I don't think it'll work just because you got a guy named Bacon working for the ADL. I don't think that's going to work out. I'm surprised that they allow him to take their money. We have a major TikTok problem. Leaked audio of ADL Chief Executive Jonathan Greenblatt freaking out because global youth aren't buying Israel's propaganda anymore. Yeah, so anyway, Greenblatt and the two congressmen here want to put the social media companies on the hook for $5 million a pop per day. Per day. That's not just overall $5 million. No, that's per day. If you are anti-Semitism, if your anti-Semitism-based post gets flagged. So, how about that? But no, they don't really care about money too much. The EU has submitted to Trump's tariffs in a new U.S. trade deal. 15%, it says. The U.S. president has touted the agreement with the bloc after months of tense tariff negotiations. So this is Ursula von der Leyen, the EU commissioner, president of the EU Commission. She was recently up for not really re-election. It was a vote of no confidence or something like that, and ended up winning that, so she's still in power. The EU has agreed to a sweeping trade deal with the U.S. that will see most of its exports to America face a baseline tariff of 15%, averting what both sides had warned could be a devastating transatlantic trade war. Yes, well, it's, you know, this has always been a one-sided thing. That's what this whole thing is about, really, with all the tariffs. He's simply trying to balance out the one-sided tariffs because the goods going into other countries coming from the United States are always tariffed. So he's simply trying to balance it out. And that's what the press is going crazy about. How dare Trump possibly try to balance it out? It says the agreement was finalized on Sunday during the high-stakes meeting when Trump and EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen were at the Turnberry Golf Resort in Scotland. The two leaders hailed the pact as a powerful and stabilizing breakthrough after months of escalating tensions. We have a deal, von der Leyen told reporters after the 40-minute talks. It brings stability and predictability. Trump calls the outcome the biggest of all the deals, saying it solves a lot of stuff. It was a great decision. The deal imposes a 15% tariff on EU goods entering the U.S., including automobiles, pharmaceuticals, and semiconductors, sectors previously threatened with steeper tariffs of up to 30 or 50%. EU-produced cars had faced a 25% tariff with steel and aluminum products subject to rates as high as 50%. The new agreement replaces these tariffs with a uniform 15% baseline. So anyway, he's hailing it as a major win here. So I don't know. He seems to know what he's talking about as far as the economy goes, not so much as far as technology goes, in my opinion. But note that he is currently in Scotland. The Turnberry Golf Resort is where he's at. And wasn't he recently invited by King Charles via Keir Starmer at the White House a couple months back? So it'll be interesting to see if, while he is in Scotland, if he stops by the old palace to see King Charles III and see what happens with all of that. My guess is he will on this stop. I could be completely wrong, but he's already there. 99 Ukrainian drones shot down overnight, according to Moscow. Kiev's drones were intercepted over several regions, according to the Russian Defense Ministry. Almost 100 Ukrainian drones were intercepted in Russian airspace overnight, the country's defense ministry reported today. The large-scale raid comes as Kiev continues to escalate its use of unmanned aerial vehicles, UAVs, or drones, despite renewed diplomatic contacts with Moscow. According to the ministry, 67 drones were shot down over Bryansk, Smolensk, and Kaluga regions. Another 30 were intercepted in the south of Russia. So, anyway, they continue attacks on Moscow, and they're using more and more drones, of course, because their military has been absolutely decimated. So, anyway, pretty interesting, yeah. So that is RT article. And then several dead after a train wreck in Germany. Dozens more people have reportedly been injured in an incident involving a train carrying around 100 passengers. At least 3 people have been killed in a major train wreck in the German southwestern state of Baden-Württemberg, the tabloid Bild has reported, citing the police. It was carrying around 100 passengers when it came off the rails in a wooded area some 50 kilometers west of the city of Ulm on Sunday evening. Dozens, quote, dozens of people were injured in the crash, the regional interior minister stated. Local media put the number of injured at 34, citing emergency services. 3 are reportedly in critical condition. So, wow. Anyway, I didn't know if you guys knew about the old German train wreck. Not something you see every day, luckily. But I thought that was pretty interesting. And then one more from RT.com. FBI deputy head says he'll never be the same after what he's learned. So we've talked about old Bongino every now and then on this show. I tend to think that he is probably a honorable guy, although he is neck deep in this situation with Trump and the whole Epstein thing. If he wants to salvage his reputation as a podcaster with a huge audience, I think he's probably going to have to leave the Trump administration, which of course makes Trump look bad. So I don't know. I'm not exactly sure what's going on here, but this article is saying Bongino has hinted at disturbing internal revelations amid tension over the Epstein files and U.S. government transparency. Deputy Director of FBI said he is shocked to his core by findings in ongoing internal investigations, adding that he will never be the same after becoming aware of certain facts. But of course, he doesn't say what that is. The Bureau is currently facing pressure to release the Epstein files. The circumstances of his death officially ruled a suicide, and the government's reluctance to publish all associated files have fueled years of speculation, including allegations of misconduct or a cover-up. Posting on X, Bongino said the FBI is investigating public corruption and the political weaponization of both law enforcement and intelligence operations. He did not elaborate on the targets or the scope, but he called the inquiries properly predicated and necessary. So again, just putting out more talking points mostly with no actual details. He just said, we cannot run a republic like this. I will never be the same after learning what I've learned. But then again, he doesn't say what he's learned. So why bother even putting that out? It just makes him look, I think, makes him look bad. Anyway, I would think that he's probably going to wise up and leave the Trump administration. If he wants to keep his career going as a successful podcaster, and I think he's an investor, maybe an original investor type of person in Rumble as well. Anyway, it'll be interesting to see what happens with old Dan there, not Dan Bongino. I wanted to mention this one. I thought this was wild. The Knesset, you guys know what that is? Knesset is the basically the Congress of the voting bloc there in Israel. The Knesset votes 71-13 for non-binding motion calling to annex the West Bank. So that's pretty overwhelming. Non-binding motion calling to annex the West Bank. This is a necessary step to begin the Third Temple. The resolution declared that the West Bank is an inseparable part of the land of Israel, the historical, cultural, and spiritual homeland of the Jewish people, and that Israel has the natural, historical, and legal right to all of the territories of the land of Israel. Hence what we were saying earlier about Gaza and obviously, other areas like Syria and places like that they're considering Greater Israel. So here's the article. Knesset votes 71 to 13 for non-binding motion calling to annex the West Bank. So they're saying that this has to be done for there to be a third temple. Now, this article doesn't actually talk about the third temple, I don't think. I don't see that anywhere. I looked earlier. But it is interesting that they have voted to do this, and I would think that the people that are following closely would know that as far as the third temple and stuff. So we'll see where it goes. This is just another little step towards the third temple being built, which I personally think will happen. An actual physical temple. Some people seem to think, no, it's not going to happen. I personally think that it will. I think it has to biblically. So anyway, I don't think that's very good news, but nonetheless, that does seem to be what just happened. This is dated July 23rd, so just a few days ago. Trump tells Israel to, quote, finish the job against Hamas weeks after suggesting ceasefire deal is in sight. So finish the job. I don't really like the sound of that, do you? Now, granted, this is on CNN's website. They might be lying, but that does sound like something he would say. Only a few weeks ago, Trump seemed confident a deal was days away that would end the fighting in Gaza and secure the release of hostages and allow aid to flow into an enclave where people are starving to death. Now, Trump's optimism seems to have vanished. The president pulled back his negotiators from ceasefire talks this week after the U.S. deemed Hamas neither coordinated nor acting in good faith. But apparently Israel is. Steve Witkoff, Trump's Middle East envoy, said he was looking into alternative options for getting the hostages out. Sounds like an operation of some sort, doesn't it? Maybe a small SEAL team or something, who knows. And Trump, rather than urging an immediate return to the negotiating table, signaled Friday that it was time for Israel to escalate its military campaign, even as images of starving children in Gaza lead to mounting global outrage. That's exactly right. I think they want to die, and it's very, very bad, Trump said. Yeah, I think that's what's happening. Sure, whatever. I mean, he's saying that that's what Hamas must be thinking. I think they want to die, and that is very bad, Trump said of Hamas before leaving for a weekend trip to Scotland, which I mentioned earlier. It's got to a point where you're going to have to finish the job, meaning Israel, I guess. Whether Trump's shift in posture is a true reflection of the talks breaking down, or, as some Western officials suggest, a tactical step meant to jolt Hamas and break a deadlock, was not clear. But his words suggested he would do little to pressure Israel to pull back on its 21-month-long military campaign in Gaza, despite a growing humanitarian crisis that led one UN official this week to label Gazans, quote, walking corpses. So Trump says, finish the job. That sounds like some of those messages that were written on some of the bombs and missiles that were going to be launched. You remember people like Randy Fine and some of those other neocon type people that were writing on the bombs and missiles little love messages. Finish the job, I think, might have been one of them. But that's now what Trump is saying about the Gazans and about Israel, quote, finishing the job against Gaza. So I said that, I brought that up really because we have this constant drip, drip, drip thing happening with the whole Epstein deal, with things being leaked slowly. Pictures, possibly faked things that are coming out, where Trump had this relationship to some degree with Epstein. And it seems like every day something new is rolling out. Something new. So just as an example here, I want to play you this clip from X that I found. Jeffrey Epstein pleading the Fifth Amendment when it comes to his relationship with Donald Trump. This is one of those things where it's being dripped out. This was not, as far as I know, not available until pretty recently, but it's from 2010. So who do you suppose is doing the dripping here? Israeli intelligence to get Trump to go along with exactly whatever they want, which, of course, as we know, for many years has been war with Iran. You suppose that's what's going on? You think Trump is being blackmailed here by Israel, literally, to get him to go along with the war in Iran and to get him to go supply weapons to Israel and to do the bombing and things like that? That seems to me like that's probably what's going on. Israel taking the Jeffrey Epstein data and slowly releasing things about Trump to keep him on the leash. You know, the old carrot and the stick kind of thing, right? So to keep him close so that they can continue to influence his policy. It seems to me like that may be what's going on. Here is this interesting video that just came out. This was posted July 23rd.
Have you ever had a personal relationship with Donald Trump?
What do you mean by personal relationships?
Have you socialized with him?
Yes, sir.
Yes?
Yes, sir.
Have you ever socialized with Donald Trump in the presence of females under the age of 18?
Though I'd like to answer that question, at least today, I'm going to have to assert my 5th, 6th, and 14th Amendment rights, sir.
You get the point that he took the 5th. He took the 5th. Jeffrey Epstein pleads the 5th when asked if he and Donald Trump ever socialized in the presence of females under the age of 18. And we mentioned a couple shows back where it seemed to be that the evidence indeed suggested that that was the case. That he was involved with at least one 13-year-old at the time who has now been silenced and bought off, and possibly a 12-year-old. And we mentioned the names a couple weeks ago on a post that we read through on this show. So if you missed that show, I think it's called Trump's Nightmare Machine, something like that. And I think he was involved. I really do. I didn't up until that point, but now I think, based on his reaction and how he has seemed really guilty here all along, that probably means that he really is, to some degree. It wasn't just, 20-something-year-old women and he was 40s or 50s-something-year-old guy looking for a fun time. It apparently was at least one, possibly two, really young girls. And that may be what he's covering up. Now, do I know that for sure? No. But the article that we went through a couple shows ago, I think will help really detail exactly what that was about. And note the word detail, because there were a lot of details in that article that I read through. And I think Epstein here in this short little video clip, another drip that I would say is probably being released from the Israeli intelligence agency, the Mossad, which he was a, pretty widely known that he was a Mossad agent or a Mossad asset to some degree, possibly even working for Ghislaine Maxwell and her Mossad agent dad, Mr. Maxwell, that, that this is being let out little by little by little to keep Trump on the hook for continuing the war against Iran. That's what I think is going on here. And I think even more stuff is going to be released about him, especially if he doesn't follow what Israel wants, because they want their war with Iran, first and foremost. All right, shifting gears a little bit here. This is kind of a weird one I thought I would mention for all of you conspiracy theorists out there. You know who you are. Over 2,000 UFO sightings were reported in the first half of 2025. The National UFO Reporting Center collects reports from the public. Interest in UFOs has been increasing after whistleblower testimony, and a bipartisan group of lawmakers is pushing for more transparency. So there's a hour-long video here embedded talking about Skinwalker Ranch, which is super creepy. I don't know if you guys know much about that or have ever heard about that. I was at a conference, a Steve Quayle conference, several years ago, and they had a guy on there talking about Skinwalker Ranch and detailing the crazy goings on there. And I hadn't really heard of it before that time. And I can tell you that was really demonic sounding. It sounded like something that is, I would say, completely unexplainable, but when you look at it from the biblical perspective, it's totally explainable. It's demonic. So anyway, that said, there's a video here embedded on this page talking about Skinwalker Ranch. And this article goes on further. It says, there have been more than 2,000 sightings of UFOs in the first half of 2025, according to data from the National UFO Reporting Center, or NUFORC. So that's the acronym. If you're keeping score at home, that's the acronym, NUFORC. The nonprofit organization collects reports of UFOs and investigates cases of unexplained sightings. The 2,174 sightings are an increase from previous years. In 2024, the agency logged 1,492 sightings between the beginning of January and the end of June in 2023. 2,077 were recorded in the same time frame. UFO sightings in 2025, NUFORC collected more than 3,000 reports during the first 6 months of this year. So 3,000 this year, and it was 2,000 in 2023. So yeah, that's crazy. Those numbers likely only represent a small number of actual sightings. Based on anecdotal evidence, he believes roughly 5% of sightings get reported. That's interesting. The group takes reports from everyday citizens as well as air traffic controllers, police, and members of the military. Interest in UFOs after the David Grush testimony. So yeah, talking about the whistleblower, supposedly. I think the verdict is still out on whether or not he was actually a whistleblower, but he claimed to be, which did raise the amount of sightings and talk, I guess, happening about it. George Knapp on UFO cover-ups. They're never going to give this up. And let's see, NUFORC sees wide range of UFO sightings. UFO appears to evade camera in unseen video, whistleblower claims. So there's some different links to some different things here on this News Nation site. News Nation article. NewsNationNow.com is where it is. But we'll link to this in the Substack post that we send out. I thought it was kind of interesting and a little bizarre. We've got another weird sighting on a Ring doorbell camera that we're going to look at here in just a few minutes. So stay tuned for that. Let's just say that, to me, the thing caught on camera appears to be legit, and it has an elongated skull. So stay tuned for that one. That's pretty wacky. All right, and then this one, undercover video. Disney execs brag about a secret policy to hire 0 white people unless they're Jewish. Of course. So I'll just play this, and we won't bother listening here, but I think it's got some music in it I didn't really want to play from a live stream standpoint. But what we'll do is we'll link to this article if you guys, or this video if you guys want to check it out. So that, once again, James O'Keefe and company have done the proverbial whistleblowing here on this now Disney situation here. Disney executives brag about a secret policy to hire 0 white people unless they're Jewish. So isn't that lovely? Anyway, this whole video is 26 minutes, so obviously we can't really play the whole thing, but you get the idea here. James O'Keefe is doing really good work out there. So anyway, that one is an X post, so we will, well, here, I'll just retweet this. That's what we'll do. If you're on my X account, you can find it real easily now. I just retweeted it. So yeah, Diamond Report, the Diamond Report on X.
I'm very confused about the Genius Act. I thought there was a deal made by the president to make sure that included was going to be the central bank digital currency. There'd be no possibility of a backdoor to get that. So where are we?
This was a closed rule. Johnson did not allow us to make amendments to the Genius Act, to make an amendment to put a ban on CBDC in the Genius Act. We were told, you don't have a right to amendments. You don't get to do your legislative process anymore. You just have to vote on it. And they forced it through, making what I think is a fake deal And I wish the Freedom Caucus had held, but they didn't. They want to work and they want to pass the president's agenda, and I do too. But I'm not willing to go along with the pathway to a central bank digital currency in a cashless society where none of us can control our money. Because I don't trust the government, and no one else should trust the government. And just because this administration is committed to that doesn't mean that a future administration will not lock down our bank accounts if we are not doing and saying what they want us to do. We've already been there. That was the past 4 years.
When you go past one of these number plate cameras, when you, quote, shouldn't, you won't be able to challenge the fine, because the fine will be taken out of your digital account the moment you transgress.
At the world's busiest airport in Atlanta,
all right, you're fully verified.
The TSA checkpoint has gotten a high-tech upgrade.
You're going to take your ID, insert it into the card reader.
Using this facial recognition camera system to compare a flyer's face to their picture on their ID in seconds.
The Genius Act, already greenlit by a bipartisan Senate, claims to slap a federal harness on stable coins. Stable coins aim for price stability through mechanisms like backing each coin with reserves of cash, bonds, or other assets. The Clarity Act is a tug of war over who gets to leash these digital assets. Will it be the SEC or the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, the CFTC, potentially prying them loose from the SEC's iron grip? A move the crypto rebels have been howling for. The Anti-CBDC Surveillance State Act, championed by Republicans, aims to slam the door on a central bank digital currency, citing nightmares of government snooping and control. Yet many warn of a sinister backdoor, a legislative sleight of hand that could see these bills, if watered down in the Senate or hitched to must-pass juggernauts like the NDAA, could pave the way for a CBDC Trojan horse.
You don't expect your air-fried chips to come with a side of surveillance, but research has found they might.
Do I need umbrella for tomorrow in London?
From tracking locations to listening to conversations to knowing your gender and date of birth, our devices, in some cases, are acutely smart.
John Bound reporting for InfoWars.
All right, how about that? I thought that was a really good report on CBDCs and stablecoin. We're hearing a lot more about stablecoins lately, and something that we're going to be talking about more and more, because that is something that they can pretty easily slip into some of the apps that we're already using, whether it's anything from gaming type apps where stablecoin will be the payment of choice, or even things like Venmo and PayPal and so forth. So I do think that's something to watch and keep an eye on, is something that could just be slipped in the back door here, and all of a sudden everyone's using stablecoin. And the dollars, the physical, actual paper dollars, which are meaningless, of course, but, you know, the control that we have over paper currency will slowly dwindle away. And it could be that that's how they get to it. That's how they get it out of our proverbial wallets and get us into the entire digital system. So we'll see where it goes. Interview: NATO plans to send 250,000 troops into Russia. World War III is coming. Armstrong Economics. So this guy right here is Martin Armstrong. I think he has been extremely accurate over many decades. And here he is being interviewed by Maria Z. And he has also mentioned that he thinks there is a 100% chance, according to him and his computer model, which is almost always correct and has been, again, for going back decades, almost a 100% chance of a nuclear exchange or nuclear war coming up. Coming from Martin Armstrong from Armstrong Economics. I've got that article pulled up as well. It's on a different tab. We will get there eventually. So anyway, let's keep moving here. So this is Gregory Mannarino, which you guys may have heard of him. Do not consent, orders of magnitude worse than a CBDC. So going back to the video we just watched, He's saying this is action to take now. As of late, I have explained why this new stablecoin system is orders of magnitude worse and more dangerous than the CBDCs. With that, I have put this together below for those of you who are still having trouble understanding, or he's calling it overstanding, why. At the end, I have outlined practical action which you must take to stand against this hideous new beast system. Why this privatized stablecoin system managed by the Fed is more dangerous than a CBDC. In one sentence, this new stablecoin system is corporate power merged with invisible control of central banking. Moreover, nowhere in the U.S. Constitution does it even remotely allow for such a system to even exist. Then he says, let's break it down where this is going. So this is talking about the whole stablecoin system, which is what I was just mentioning. This is something they could slip in the back door here, and nobody will be necessarily watching for it to come in that way. Take action against stablecoin system. Reduce reliance on banks. Move funds from big-name banks like Chase and Wells Fargo, Citi and B of A into the local credit unions. I've been saying this for years. This is, again, Gregory Mannarino. He has a really good podcast on YouTube. Convert fiat into hard assets, gold, silver, land, food, seeds, tools, anything outside the system. Stablecoins will only work if people use them to represent value. If you don't play, you break the system. I like the way that sounds. If you don't play, you break the system. Buy local and support real people. Avoid corporations tied to CBDC stablecoin pilot programs like Walmart, Amazon, major grocery chains. Shop farmers markets. Cash only. Shake the hands that feed you. The beast cannot track what is done face to face. Reject digital ID and biometric integration. Any app, wallet, or account that requires ID verification, iris scan, palm scan, or social score system is the mark of the beast. Total control in disguise, and please refuse it. Speak out. Show others. Lead the pride. This is not about survival. It's about spiritual war. You are born to shine light into this darkness. Make it known. I do not consent. So that's some good advice here from Gregory Mannarino on his Substack post. Thought that was pretty good. And then here is the other article I mentioned here. Now this is an actual interview here with Greg Hunter on his site USA Watchdog. 100% chance of nuclear war. Martin Armstrong. 6 weeks ago, legendary financial and geopolitical cycle analyst Martin Armstrong was signaling a big turn toward war. Now Armstrong says the chances of war with a nuclear exchange is 100%. Plan on it. This is coming. And I would say, yes, it's also biblical. Can the world avoid nuclear war with President Trump's 50-day deadline given to Russia to make peace in Ukraine? Armstrong says, you do not threaten your adversary that is at your same level publicly. If you want to say something like that, you do it privately in a phone call. Now, what will happen is Putin cannot possibly sign a peace deal. What, are you crazy to do this in 50 days? We have staff in Germany, and I was told by my staff that a friend, 60 years old, was told to report to duty. I had a friend who was at the Vienna Peace Conference, and he called me when it was over and said, holy crap, this has nothing to do with peace anymore. This is all about preparing for war. Everybody should start getting ready for drafts to start going that way. They want war. They are not backing off. So again, going back to the globalists. Bad news. I got to tell you, Martin Armstrong is very accurate. And he's saying 100% chance of nuclear war. Or at least some sort of nuclear exchange. But there can't be any good version of that particular thing, can there? So anyway, there is a Greg Hunter interview here with Martin Armstrong. Certainly worth watching. Check that out. I came across this one too. Again, more with the biometrics and digital everything. Mexico makes biometric identifier mandatory for all citizens, which is something that we saw actually at the beginning of the show tonight when Greg Reese was talking about Mexico. He brought it up then in that article, in that video. Mexico has officially introduced a digital identification system by signing a law that turned the previously optional biometric-based citizen code into a mandatory document for all citizens. That's when it was talked about in the Greg Reese video. He was calling it the CURP, C-U-R-P. That's what this article is about. The mandatory CURP will retain and contain personal and biometric information, including a photograph and a QR code containing biometric fingerprint and iris data. The identifier is expected to be introduced gradually to all Mexicans by February 2026. That's not too far away, is it? So yes, and then Kristi Noem said that it may raise a few eyebrows. I would think so. Whether it's Mexico or any other country. People know. People know what the whole biometric system's all about, I think. So anyway, that is an interesting article, and we'll link to this in the Substack post that I send out later in the week. Netanyahu's corruption trial delayed over food poisoning. So how about that? Just in time for the holidays, Benjamin Bibi Netanyahu gets sick and can't possibly go to his corruption trial. It's been delayed. The Israeli Prime Minister's next hearing is not expected before September due to a court recess. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu will miss scheduled corruption hearings this week after being diagnosed with food poisoning, his office said on Sunday. Food poisoning. So, therefore, he can't go to his corruption hearings. It says the trial began in 2020, and involves charges of bribery, fraud, and breach of trust over allegations of influence peddling and accepting gifts. Netanyahu denies any wrongdoing, describing the case as a politically motivated campaign against him, but of course we'll never know because he has food poisoning. Isn't that lovely? I'm sure you believe that. I know I do. No, actually I don't. I'm just joking. But I think, this trial's been going on since 2020, and we're now 5 years in, and he's still not been held accountable. You can pretty much bet that they'll be back at war again as soon as possible, as soon as his food poisoning's over. Anyway, the further lie here says the 75-year-old prime minister fell ill overnight and was examined at home by his doctor. He was diagnosed with intestinal inflammation from eating spoiled food and is receiving intravenous fluids for his dehydration. His condition was described as good. I don't think I would describe anything with Benjamin Netanyahu as, quote, good. Would you? So anyway, old Bibi got food poisoning, can't go to court, can't be held accountable. But we can start the next war, the next phase of the next war. All right, Slay News article. Tulsi Gabbard, new Russia hoax evidence criminally implicates Obama. Mentioned this earlier, but Barack Obama has presidential immunity, so it doesn't really matter what he does. He can be the ringleader, calling him the ringleader of the Russia hoax. He was the ringleader, but he got all those people to go along with him, ostensibly because he would try and extend his presidential immunity to them, but it won't work that way. The only question is really, in my opinion, will Bondi's office do anything about it? And my answer to that would probably be a flat no. Because when have they ever done anything about anything, really? So anyway, I think Tulsi Gabbard is doing a good job. I think she's doing what she's supposed to do to draw attention to this, but she has no power to go after him. Only the Department of Justice does. And it just remains to be seen whether Blondie will be able to do that. I think she's the fixer, and she's been put there to ignore and drop and obfuscate and go on Fox News for interviews. That's her job. And she's doing really well at that. All right, Slay News article. Ghislaine Maxwell granted limited immunity to blow whistle on 100 different people tied to Epstein. Ghislaine Maxwell has reportedly agreed to blow the whistle on dozens of Epstein's clients and co-conspirators while being interrogated by Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche. So that's when Trump was asked about it. He was saying, yes, he does have the power to pardon her. But I'm thinking that would be political suicide to do that. So I don't really see him doing that. But it's hard to say. He's made some very strange decisions lately. According to the New York Post, Blanche reportedly gave Maxwell, a convicted sex criminal currently serving a 20-year sentence, quote, limited immunity to give the Department of Justice information regarding 100 different people linked to Epstein. The deal was revealed by Maxwell's attorney after his client spent days providing information to the DOJ. Maxwell's attorney told reporters that his client was asked about every possible thing you can imagine, everything. I wonder if she was asked about Trump. You suppose? They'll probably conveniently delete that part. This was the first opportunity she's ever been given to answer questions about what happened. Yeah, but she's in jail. She's in prison for 20 years. You would think that she would have had some chance at some point to talk about what happened. Maybe the people in charge, back when her trial was going on, maybe they didn't want to hear about it. They just threw her in the old pokey. The truth will come out about what happened with Mr. Epstein, and she's the person who's answering those questions. So let's hope she can stay alive for a little while here. If she's answering questions, that is not something that very many people at the globalist level would want. So it is not a good time to be Ghislaine Maxwell right now, because her life could very well be shortened if she's not careful. Anyway, let's hope that doesn't happen, of course. Israeli intelligence is saying Iran's supreme leader spends all day sleeping and getting high on drugs. Now, there have been some rumors that the Ayatollah here is not in very good health. So my guess is if he's on drugs, has to do with that. Let's see what this says. In a shocking new revelation, an account linked to Israel's National Intelligence Agency, the Mossad, has raised serious allegations about Iranian Supreme Leader Ayatollah Khamenei's health and leadership. Israelis' intelligence suggests that Khamenei spends much of his time sleeping and using drugs, while much of Iran struggles with the lack of basic necessities like clean water and electricity. Yeah, well, that's not really that surprising, is it? How can a leader lead when they sleep half the day and spend the other half of the day high on substances? That's the question here. Well, just ask Joe Biden. I mean, he's like the prime example of someone that was doing that. He was high on substances most of the time. They had him drugged up a lot of the time. It says the new social media presence appears to be a more provocative and satirical take on Mossad's usual communication style. The posts that openly criticized Khamenei's leadership and his alleged drug use. I think it doesn't really say here how old he is. I want to say he's in his 80s or 90 or something. That's what I'm thinking. It must have to do with his health. He's not like, I don't think, would be taking recreational drugs, do you? The severity of penalties for drug-related offenses in Iran include the death penalty. Makes the irony of Khamenei's reported drug use even more pronounced. So they're accusing him of using the drugs, I guess, for other reasons, not necessarily for health reasons. So very strange. Anyway, I don't know. I'm not sure that's actually going on, but that's what the Mossad says, so it must be true. Too funny. In an age of wearables, everything you say can and will be used against you. With the technocrats pushing surveillance from phones to wearables, what is the next step? Yuval Harari gave us the answer in 2021. Yeah. Meet B, B-E-E, your new wearable personal AI. No thanks. So here is the surveillance into the skin. Yuval Noah Harari. or as I call him, Yuval Noah Homo Harari, because he had a book called Homo Deus. All right, anyway, that is a leohoman.com article. And then on his Substack, same article here, The Age of Wearables. Yeah, everything you say can and will be used against you. That's the top article. And then he's got a few more articles on his Substack that is not on his website for whatever reason. In a shocking about face, the United Nations comes out against transgenderism. The question is why and why now? That one is kind of a weird one. UN's come out against transgenderism all of a sudden. I would say it's really from one word. There's one reason, one word, and that would be Trump. That's the reason that happened now. Trump continues to excel in his role as entertainer-in-chief. Yeah, he does. Something has changed in Trump. Dark comments about Epstein hoax lead supporters to drop off MAGA bandwagon. So anyway, that's some of the top articles on his Substack, leohoman.substack.com. U.S. State Department slams EU's Digital Services Act as, quote, Orwellian censorship. U.S. State Department sharply criticized the EU's Digital Service Act, DSA, accusing it of stifling free speech and dissent under the guise of combating disinformation and harmful content. Washington alleges the DSA is being used to silence opposition, citing examples like Germany's AfD party, and claims European leaders are shielding themselves from public criticism. Well, yeah, that's the whole reason for it. France's probe into Musk's X platform and the detention of Telegram founder Pavel Durov, the latter accused of enabling criminal content, rather fueled accusations of politically motivated censorship. Yeah, they had old Mr. Durov held in a jail there until he was able to give up the codes to the back doors of Telegram. He's the guy that founded Telegram. Senior U.S. officials, including FCC Chair Brendan Carr and VP J.D. Vance, have condemned the DSA as a threat to free speech. The U.S. has imposed visa restrictions on foreign officials involved in online censorship. The dispute highlights the clash between the EU's push for stricter global governance and the U.S.'s emphasis on free expression, raising questions about the future of global internet regulation and democratic freedoms. So that's just a part of that article. Here's a video here, I guess, about Pavel Durov when he was arrested at the French airport and so forth. So that is a Natural News article. And then Wine Press Substack. I thought this top one was pretty interesting. Kind of an eyebrow raiser, although I don't believe it. Bill Gates says, every piece of bread I've ever eaten is from genetically modified wheat. He said that during a climate conference in Kenya. Do we believe that? Well, this we does not believe that. Every piece of bread he's ever eaten is GMO. I don't think so. I don't think that's true. Sorry, Bill, I don't buy that one. Anyway, that's a Wine Press Substack article. And then a couple of Gateway Pundit articles for tonight. Breaking. This was from Saturday, I guess. 11 people were stabbed at a Walmart in Traverse City, Michigan. Suspect in custody. Several people were stabbed at a Walmart in Traverse City, Michigan. Saturday afternoon, the unidentified suspect, who's being described as a 42-year-old male, is in custody. So stabbing at Walmart. So be careful when you're shopping at Walmart out there. 11 people were stabbed. Looking to see if there are any other details. Traverse County Sheriff's Office is investigating a multiple stabbing incident at a Walmart in Traverse City. Suspects in custody. No, it doesn't really say. Now, it might in this video. Sheriff provided updates to the mass stabbing. So it might say in those videos, but it doesn't really in here. So anyway, let's hope that those people recover and everything's okay with them. But man, that had to be a harrowing experience. Shopping and then all of a sudden you get stabbed. All right, now I mentioned this briefly earlier, so this is something we need to take a look at. Candace Owens delivers explosive response after Emmanuel and Brigitte Macron sue her for claiming that Brigitte was born a man. Yeah, well, let's let Candace explain it. She does a better job than I could. So here's what she has to say. Watch Candace double down on Brigitte Macron being a man in response to getting sued.
You were born a man and you will die a man. That's the point I'm making. So give us a sample. I'll send my doctors to take your blood. We'll figure it out real quick, however you want to go about this. Hey, how about just giving us some pictures again of you growing up, raising your children? That would be fine. For whatever reason, to phone, by the way, like I said, we'll get to the bottom of it, right? That is what Discovery is for. I'm going to ask a lot of questions. You're probably hoping, this will go away and at least we'll say we sued her. We'll say we went after her. She'll probably file for this to get dismissed. I'd like to make it to Discovery. I think that we owe that to the world. Anyways, you guys, we are revolting against this. We're revolting against the perverts that run the world. And I want to be very clear here. I count you among them. I think you're sick. I think you're disgusting. And I am fully prepared to take on this battle on behalf of the entire world. Okay? That's what I'm going to say. On behalf of the entire world, I will see you in court.
Wow. How about that? I think she means business, don't you? So we'll see where it goes. Yes, they would not want that to get to Discovery at all because, well, for obvious reasons. I don't think the judge is going to ask Mr. Brigitte there to drop his drawers, but it could be potentially really embarrassing. It could definitely put him through some sort of him/her through some sort of medical situation where his blood is looked at. His/her blood is looked at. I don't know. She makes some good points there. Discovery is the thing that they would want to avoid at all costs. So look for this thing to probably end before it ever gets started. So yes, they're looking all tough, but keep in mind the other story I mentioned at the beginning of this show was that the French submarine company losing its nuclear codes. I think that might have a little something to do with all of this as well. And let's go after Candace and deflect what's actually going on. So, I don't know. I don't really think that that's ever going to see the light of day as far as court goes, but it is interesting for sure. So, yeah, go Candace for sure. All right, and then this is on a website called Medium, which I'm sure many of you guys have heard of before. But this is another one of those wacky space alien stories. I have a couple of them tonight, I guess. Harvard professor warns of potential alien attack as early as November 2025. Now, why that, I don't know. On Friday, July 25th, 2025, so just a couple days ago, an extraordinary claim from Harvard University has captured global attention. And note the guy's name, astrophysicist Avi Loeb. I don't think that's a Presbyterian name. A prominent figure known for his provocative theories has suggested that an interstellar object 31/Atlas may be a hostile alien spacecraft on a collision course with Earth, potentially arriving as early as November 2025. This bold hypothesis, outlined in a pre-peer reviewed, builds on Loeb's long-standing interest in extraterrestrial life and comes amid heightened public fascination with unidentified aerial phenomena, formerly known as UFOs. This article explores the details of Loeb's assertion, its scientific context, and the implications for humanity as the speculated deadline approaches. So why November 2025? Well, because of this interstellar object. I don't know if it's a rock or what it is here. His latest theory on 31, well, it's actually not 31, it's 3I/Atlas. 3I, not 31. An interstellar object first detected on July 1st this year at a distance 4.5 times the Earth-Sun separation. In a paper posted on his website and on the preprint server, Loeb argues that the object's unusual trajectory and brightness suggests it may be maneuvering deliberately, a behavior inconsistent with natural asteroid or comets. Natural asteroids or comets. The Irish Star reported on July 20th that Loeb posits this could mark humanity's first encounter with a hostile extraterrestrial intelligence potentially intent on an attack. So he goes from it being a bright object in the sky headed this way to now they're extraterrestrial, intelligent, and potentially hostile. So I think this guy's been watching too many sci-fi movies, maybe. I don't know. Too many episodes of Star Trek or something. I don't know. But very strange. Kind of weird. Medium.com, though, so what do you expect? So there's a lot here on this article. If you want to read about the upcoming encounter with space aliens, I guess, in November. Looking to see how long it is. Well, conclusion, awaiting November's verdict. As of July 25th, his warning of a potential alien attack by November remains a provocative hypothesis rather than a confirmed threat. Yeah, and don't expect that it will ever be confirmed, even if it were true. The scientific basis is intriguing but unverified, with 3I/Atlas's true nature still under investigation. The cultural and scientific implications, however, are already significant, reflecting humanity's enduring quest to understand its place in the cosmos. So, anyway, I don't know. So, talking about perihelion in October, it sounds a little bit like Planet X. I hate to say it. I think Planet X is real, meaning wormwood, but that is not what this guy is describing. So, kind of strange, but again, we'll link to this in the Substack post, but it's on medium.com if you guys want to look at it earlier. Now, here's the other crazy thing that I mentioned earlier, the Ring camera in Compton. So, straight out of Compton. The Ring camera in Compton picks up what some people think is an alien. Something strange happened in the Compton neighborhood of Los Angeles. So yes, some people might call this high strangeness. It says you've heard of the Crichton leprechaun. Get ready to meet the Compton alien.
New at 11, plenty of paranormal questions after a mysterious figure was spotted near a home in Compton. Take a look at this. Look at the right corner of your screen here. Ring video from Jessica Ortiz's home camera caught someone or something walking by her home. She said this happened
elongated skull
June 5th. Jessica said her two other cameras didn't catch anything and her neighbors didn't notice anything either. Paranormal investigator Zach Baggins also weighed in on the footage.
I was sitting in my son's room with my son. We were staring at each other like, what do we do? We didn't even know what to do. Like, I'm not going to call the police. I'm not going to go outside. I guess I'm going to have to live with the doubt because I'm not checking.
I wouldn't see there's anything to worry about, but I cannot conclude that this is a hoax after seeing that footage, that's for sure.
Now, Jessica said some people think it's a child, a mariachi, or even a large cockatoo. UFO and chemtrail expert Mick West believes it's someone playing a prank, saying it doesn't look like a being walking and the lower half is transparent with no legs.
Okay. So I'm going to just say right here, I've got a different take on this than absolutely anyone else because I actually have experience with that person quoted on the screen right there. Mick West, quote, UFO expert. He is no UFO expert. I know who this guy is. Isn't this an old story, the alien in Compton? I don't know if it's old or not. It's posted on X on July 24th, so that would be 4 days ago. So depends on how you define old, maybe? I don't know. I had not heard about this. But you could see that the space alien looked like it has an elongated skull. Here, let me back it up. Yeah, it's I mean, who knows if it's real or not, but it does look like it has an elongated skull. Just out for a stroll in Compton. But no, the main thing I was going to say here about all of this wasn't really even about... I tend to believe this guy. I think he's right, Zach Baggins. But this guy right here that they're quoting, Mick West, is a known U.S. government asset, meaning troll. He's a known troll in the whole world of geoengineering and chemtrails. Notice how when they introduced him at the end of this piece, they said UFO and chemtrail expert Mick West. Mick West was, he made his money as a video game developer. And for whatever reason, I guess I don't know if he sold his company or sold the rights to his software or what. He was either a software developer or video games. I forget which. Doesn't matter. The point is, he left that industry to go be a chemtrail debunker. And back when I started working with Mr. Dane in early 2014 into 2015 and so forth, we were battling every day with trolls and people getting on Mr. Dane's posts, getting on posts that I made and other people about geoengineering and how, yes, it was legit. It wasn't just ice crystals in the sky. Mick West had an entire team of other trolls that would descend on any posts that Dane Wigington put out and others, calling people conspiracy theorists and it's not real and it's just ice crystals and you don't know what you're talking about. It's not science-based and any of that stuff. Mick West was that guy. He headed up the troll army. And now he's out there saying that this can't possibly be real, and he's being quoted as a UFO expert on this piece here from the news, local news. Well, he is no UFO expert, I guarantee you. He's a software designer, video game developer, whatever it is. He's not a UFO expert. He's not even a chemtrail and geoengineering expert. He is a paid troll. And that, because they're quoting him, makes me think that this is a legit, actual demonic creature or something here if they've called out the big dogs like Mick West. Because if Mick West is working to disprove something, you can bet it's got to be real because he's probably working for the government. That's what I'm saying. So he's been sent out there to say it's not legit. See, it says right here, you know it's legit when even the alien experts are calling it a prank, which he was, but of course he's not an alien expert. Anyway, there's a little bit more here on this particular Not to Be article, but yeah, straight out of Compton. Pretty wild. I just thought that was kind of strange, but yeah, I had a different take on that just because of the whole Mick West thing. You cannot trust that guy. All right, so we can't have the Diamond Report without the weekly run-in here with airplane incidents, of which we have 2 this week. So the first one here is Southwest pilot nosedives to miss another plane while flying from Burbank to Vegas. What the heck is happening with our air travel the last couple of years? In the latest example of disaster aversion, a Southwest pilot made a risky maneuver to avoid possible collision with another plane in a flight from Burbank, California to Las Vegas, Nevada. Here's a testimony from a passenger. So let's listen to what she has to say. Southwest pilot forced to nosedive to avoid a midair collision.
I took a Southwest flight from Burbank to Vegas, and I've done it before, and I know that there's a lot of turbulence. And about 10 minutes into the flight, we plummeted pretty far, and I looked around, and everyone's like, okay, that's normal. And then within 2 seconds, it felt like the Rye Tower of Terror where we fell. I mean, it felt like 20, 30 feet in the air, and the screaming, it was terrifying. We really thought we were plummeting to a plane crash. After everyone was shaken up for a couple of seconds, we realized that the flight attendant had hit her head. It felt like we were flying in the air. And the pilot came on and he told us that we almost collided with another plane and that they lost, I think, air traffic control. If I'm not mistaken, with the, to know that the plane was coming towards us, it was absolutely terrifying. And I'm a traveler. I was with my mom who travels everywhere. She goes to Vegas constantly for work, and she said she's never experienced anything like this. I just remember, I think we were all in shock, but I just remember him saying, what just happened was we almost collided with another plane, and I had to make the emergency attempt to, I think he said, go under because we lost service with the air traffic control. Thank you to our pilot.
Wow. Pretty interesting. Sounds like a harrowing, wild type of ride. It felt like a tower of terror, she says. So, yeah, I don't know. More with the air travel here. Luckily, everybody was all right. Southwest pilot nosedives to miss another plane, and then we'll get to the other plane incident here in just a second. But yeah, you got to have those. You have to have those stories on, or just would not be the Diamond Report each week. I thought this one was interesting, and another situation where it's sad, but it ended up being okay, I think. 6-year-old calls 911 during a pit bull attack, saving mom's life. So, Miss Emily, this one's for you. I know you're out there training doggies. Texas mom, Lindsay Stroop, is lucky to be alive after she was violently attacked by 2 pit bulls that she was dog sitting for a friend. Her daughter, 6-year-old Lily, was with her mom and witnessed the attack. It was only 7:30 in the morning when the 2 dogs began fighting and quickly turned on Lindsay. The 6-year-old quickly grabbed her mom's phone and locked herself in the bathroom where she called 911. Lily's dad told KXII News she witnessed her mother on the ground rolling around being attacked by multiple dogs with wounds and things of that nature. It's a very intense situation for my family. While it's incredibly devastating for a 6-year-old to have to witness something like that, it is amazing that the little girl had the presence of mind to get herself to safety and call for help for her mom. Within a matter of minutes, the police arrived. The dogs attempted to attack the police officers as well, but both dogs were shot. One of them killed on the spot. The police then began to provide first aid before Lindsay was transferred to a local hospital. So sad about the dogs, but sounds like she's going to be all right. Says she definitely saved her mom's life. Lindsay is still in critical condition and has undergone several surgeries since Thursday's attack. She's expected to recover thanks to her brave little girl's quick action. But it will be a long road ahead for their family. Wow. So that's sad, but she could have been killed. So her little girl saved her life. Pretty amazing. Amazing and crazy story out there. All right, and then this is just kind of one of those pop culture type things I thought I would mention, just because I think it's a good sign in a way, although some of you ladies out there may not think it is. But here's what it says. Yes, we're going to talk about Sydney Sweeney ads that dragged woke marketing behind the shed and put it 6 feet under. American Eagle Outfitters has a new ad campaign. Probably heard of that store before, right? Clothes chain. So that my brothers in Christ don't stumble. You'll see what I mean in a second. I have censored this, but there's still a strong PG-13 warning for the Baptist kids. I would add, you know who you are. I didn't actually censor it. It was this guy here. On another ad, the camera pans to Sweeney's chest as she seductively plays, "My body's composition is determined by my genes," and then she playfully teases the viewer with a, "Hey, eyes up here," before the narrator says, "Sydney Sweeney has great genes." It's clever marketing, one that has the boys declaring, "We are so back." So, you know you want to see it.
Sydney Sweeney has great genes.
So that was really my main question. It was not so much about the genes or the girl even in the jeans. How would she know how to do this car maneuver here? I'll play it again. I'll leave it muted. But how would she know how to peel out a muscle car like that? I don't know. I'm not sure I buy that part of it. But yeah, she's is saying we are so back. So the whole point here is, as I keep scrolling down, understand, for the last decade, billions of dollars have been spent on major ad campaigns that look like this. Calvin Klein with a trans man wearing bra sparks comparisons to Bud Light. So we have the trans man, meaning a woman, pretending to be a man. Congrats, Jerry Jones, black transgender lesbian plus size activist, is the new face for Calvin Klein. So there you go. So this is what we've had to endure, and this, of course, is what's his face, the Bud Light guy. And yes, American Eagle, 2019 versus 2025. But lately, people have noticed a slight change. Nike ads 2021 versus 2025. So it says the vibe has shifted, as the kids say. The vibe has shifted. For the past 10 years, companies from American Eagle to Disney thought the market wanted more obese transgender women of color. They went all in on LGBT parades and BLM activism. American Eagle still has a BLM statement on its site. Anyone who opposed this, the blue-haired female marketing execs said, was a racist, homophobic troglodyte who deserved to be excommunicated from polite society. They sold their vision of the company to CEOs who were so disconnected from normal people that they actually believed it. And thus, Go Woke, Go Broke was born. It isn't a win that American Eagle turned away from wokeness and plunged straight back into soft porn, this person says. Well, if you go look at any of the TV commercials from like the 70s and 80s, something like this is, I don't know, not really that different, I suppose. In my opinion. So Sydney Sweeney, apparently she's an actress. I had no idea who she was. Maybe you guys know who she is. Anyway, she has single-handedly apparently saved this company's marketing, and that's what they're talking about here is Sydney Sweeney for American Eagle's Fall 2025 campaign, A Beautiful Woman on an American Eagle ad, is this 2012. After featuring a bombshell blonde with a muscle car, the company's stock jumped 15%. So the Go Woke and Go Broke thing does not apply here. I just thought that was good news overall. Good news. I wouldn't call that soft porn, would you? No, I think it's just a beautiful woman in a car. And that apparently sells lots of clothes. Pretty interesting. Watch. Panicked passengers evacuate Boeing 737 MAX after it catches fire on the tarmac. So here's our other lovely and wonderful adventure in airline mishaps. Again, it's on the ground, like so many of them tend to be. The one earlier actually wasn't. It was airborne, but everybody ended up being fine. So let's take a look at this one. Watch people evacuate American Airlines plane at Denver International Airport. You know what they have at Denver International Airport inside, don't you? All of the crazy New World Order stuff. Well, this was out on the tarmac.
You okay? No, he's not.
To your right. Leave room for the fire truck. Watch out for the fire truck.
Okay. All right, well, that clip's a little bit longer than that even. But how about that? That's crazy. So plane started vibrating and shaking really bad. We started tilting to the left side of the runway, and then we heard the sound of wind from them lifting up the brakes of the plane and slamming on them really hard. One passenger was screaming, "We're all gonna die." That's real helpful, huh? Another passenger was not sitting down and cooperating, so it was just kind of a lot of panic. One person was hospitalized with a minor injury, while 5 more received medical evaluations at the scene. Well, you saw a couple people go sliding down the ramp there that face planted as soon as they hit the ground. But that's pretty crazy. So apparently they're calling it a possible landing gear incident, but it looked like the landing gear was on fire. Looking to see if it explains exactly what was going on. All customers and crew deplaned safely. The aircraft was taken out of service to be inspected by our maintenance team. Boeing 737. So Boeing 737, and it seems to be like most of these maintenance type issues that we've seen lately are always Boeing's. So I don't know. Maybe it's time to reevaluate Boeing. Maybe you need to check what you're actually doing and making sure that you're keeping your plane safe. So that was an American Airlines Boeing plane. So anyway, if you're flying on planes, just be very careful out there. Seems like it's happening all the time. China and U.S. extend tariff pause another 90 days. Ahead of trade talks in Stockholm that are set to begin tomorrow, the South China Morning Post reports that, according to sources close to the matter on both sides, the U.S. and China are set to extend their tariff truce by another 3 months. China and the U.S. agreed in May to remove most of the heavy tariffs levied on each other's goods for 90 days while continuing trade negotiations. The suspension is set to expire on August 12th. So that's coming up. So it's just saying that they're basically pushing it off a little longer here. Don't hold your breath. I don't think there's going to be a breakthrough, but I hope I'm wrong. So, I don't know. All right, let's keep moving here. I've got several articles on modernity.news. Mentioned this one a little bit ago. Bongino declared he's shocked to the core by the FBI deep state investigations. I'll never be the same after learning what I've learned, but he doesn't say what he's learned. He's just dangling that out there, hoping people will trust him still and believe him still, I guess. I don't know. So that is a modernity.news article. Hospitals are harvesting organs when patients showed signs of life. An HHS investigation. This came out earlier this last week. This is something we've been talking about quite a bit on this show. Don't sign those organ donation cards on the back of your driver's license, because that is bad news. In a horrifying revelation, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, under the leadership of RFK Jr., who apparently likes to be bitten by crazy sea creatures, on Monday announced a major initiative to begin reforming the organ transplant system following an investigation by its Health Resources and Services Administration that revealed disturbing practices by a major organ procurement organization. Yeah, that would be organ harvesting from live people. But that's how all organ donation works. They just got caught. They can't harvest organs from dead people. They have to keep them alive. So anyway, this is an article with further information about what HHS has found about it, which I think that's good that they're reporting on it. That's good. People need to know what's going on, but the whole thing is a bad thing, bad situation. And then WEF says, eat the bugs, while Klaus Schwab build the forum for massages and Moet. Leaked revelations from investigation. Klaus Schwab, the founder of the World Economic Forum, and also under King Charles III, and its public face for more than half a century, is at the center of a widening internal investigation into alleged workplace misconduct, inappropriate spending, and personal interventions in the forum's research and operations, according to documents reviewed by Wall Street Journal and others familiar with the probe. Yeah, but they're just investigating themselves. So do you think anybody will find anything wrong? The forum's board of trustees commissioned the investigation in April following a whistleblower complaint. Preliminary findings accuse Klaus Schwab of a pattern of inappropriate behavior, including suggestive and potentially inappropriate remarks to female staff. How about that? He was groping the staff. Questionable travel expenses exceeding $1.1 million for himself and his wife, Hilda. And alleged manipulation of the forum's influential global competitiveness report. Wow, it sounds like old Klaus Schwab fit right in with what King Charles and all the rest of them do, doesn't it? In one instance, cited by investigators, Schwab wrote to a senior female executive in a late-night email in June of 2020 saying, "Do you feel that I am thinking of you?" Oh, Klaus. You nutty guy. Pretty funny. He's 87. He stepped down from the forum over last Easter weekend. Supposedly. He's still in the shadows, though. Anyways, old Klaus is trying to get it on here with some of the ladies at the WEF. And apparently wants us to eat the bugs when he gets to have massages and Moet. I had to look up what Moet was. I didn't know even how to say it, I must admit. But, yeah, it turns out it's a brand of wine. And most notably, Moet, I guess, is the overall parent company for Dom Perignon. That's one of them. So apparently Moet is one of their that's the parent company, and one of their labels is Dom Perignon. So old Klaus here has some pretty expensive taste, as we all kind of know. But anyway, I thought that was pretty wild. Headlines on vaccine impact for this week: God's secret wisdom versus Satan's secret societies. That's the newest article. What are Ghislaine Maxwell's next steps after securing a deal with Trump? And will the Colonial ever face justice? So that's a kind of a twofer there on that particular article. MAGA Christian conservatives rally behind Ghislaine Maxwell, calling her a victim. And it says their destruction is imminent. So I'm not sure what that's about. That is available on vaccineimpact.com. Trump's DOJ meet with convicted felon and Epstein associate Ghislaine Maxwell today. She was offered a deal before she appears. So yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what happens with all of that, with Maxwell and so forth. So that is a Vaccine Impact group of articles. And then GeoWatch for this week. Global Alert News. U.S. heat dome causes dangerous conditions for more than 100 million people. High temps and humidity across northeastern coast increase risk of heat exhaustion, illness, and death. From AccuWeather, 100 million to swelter daily in massive U.S. heat dome. A massive heat dome will be long-lasting and unforgiving across large areas of the United States in the coming weeks. And from Newsweek, millions warned to stay out of the sun in 25 states. Lethal temperatures, they're saying. Climate engineering operations, which include ionosphere heater frequency transmission, induced high-pressure heat domes, are wreaking havoc on an already badly damaged planet. If the weather warfare is allowed to continue, it will soon be game over, says Mr. Dane here on GAN, Global Alert News, for this week. So yes, engineered heat dome, which they tend to keep one going all the time over the North Pacific, just to the west of Northern California. They keep one going there all the time so they can push the moisture that comes across through the jet stream, push it up north and around California to keep the moisture from falling in California. That's why California has been in a drought for so long. It's an engineered heat dome. And now Dane is saying that they are doing that same thing over part of the United States proper. So Anyway, pretty interesting. And speaking of Mr. Dane, he mentioned this website to me the other day, and I thought I would mention it to you guys just because I had never heard of it before. And he is getting some of his data that he talks about on the weekly Global Alert News. Some of the headlines he talks about, he's getting some of that information from this website. So to me, that gives it some legitimacy. So feel free to take a look at this if you guys want. Climate and Economy, climateandeconomy.com. So this is just yesterday, well, the 26th, so Saturday's, July 2025, today's roundup of climate news. So this is linking to all kinds of different articles that have to do with the climate and the meltdown of the climate, as Mr. Dane talks about here. Record marine heat waves may signal a permanent shift in the oceans. So this is a newscientist.com article. So that is linked right from this site, climateandeconomy.com. Record marine heat waves may signal a permanent shift in the oceans. Major carbon sink may have vanished for a second year in a row. Giant prehistoric whale graveyard revealed by disappearing glacier in the Russian Arctic. So a whale graveyard has been revealed because of the glaciers disappearing up there. Reindeer flee to cities as the Arctic bakes in unprecedented heat wave. It's a Gizmodo article. So you can see there's a ton of articles here just detailing the ongoing climate debacle that's happening across the world. And it can be attributed to geoengineering and the ongoing global programs happening. And you can see here, this is literally just one day's worth of headlines. I'm still going. I'm still scrolling. So there's a lot here. There's probably, 50 or 75 articles here. Chicago slammed with flash flooding after 5 inches of rain falls in a few hours. New Mexico town hit with flash flooding for third time this month. More thunderstorms forecast. Livestock sector faces difficulty after heavy rains in Venezuela. Australia with huge contrasts. Dozens dead as storms sweep through the Philippines. So it's just one thing after another, after another, after another. And this is something that you don't really hear all that much about on the mainstream media or in alt media for sure. So I just thought it was kind of interesting, and it was a good article, and it comes highly recommended because Mr. Dane mentioned it to me, and I thought I would pass that on. You guys want to check it out, climateandeconomy.com. And, I tend to think that he's right about the climate. It's just a matter of, unfortunately for us, especially people in the eastern part of the United States, it's really difficult to see what's going on beyond our own doorsteps because everything seems fine here, and you don't really see a lot of those situations where there's flooding and drought and stuff like that unless you're living in that specific area that's being talked about. And if it's not something you're experiencing, then you tend to not think that it's even happening, or you don't believe that it's ever going to happen to you. But I think his point here is that it's going to be happening everywhere, all across the world, because the Earth is having its systems straitjacketed due to these ongoing engineering programs. So I think that's exactly what's going on. All right. So anyway, that was the end of the articles for this week. We've got the Diamond Report on X. Here is the Candace video I played. I did want to play this one for you guys. I thought this one was kind of interesting, and this is actually a guy that I had not heard of before, but he happened to be on with Alex earlier in the week. Joey Pepperoni. Yes, that's apparently his name. You guys may have seen the video that came out, I don't know, maybe a year ago, or it's been a while now, of some of the inside of Epstein's mansion, I guess, video footage that came out of some of the weird, paintings and different things that were in his place in Florida. And one of the things that was talked about and shown on video was some crazy stuff that was written on a chalkboard. Well, this guy has kind of gone through and deciphered what it meant. It says Epstein's chalkboard was a ritual, not notes, not ramblings, a formula to call something in, and I just cracked it, he says. Watch closely, everything means something. So this is a short little 2-minute video. I thought we'd check this out. I doubt that you've seen this before, so have a look here.
We are now inside Jeffrey Epstein's library. This chalkboard displayed cryptic words, and we're not sure what this means, but we're hoping you and the audience can take a look at this.
All right, class, this was a blueprint to summon something. Let's break it down. When the plants appear, it begins. They drop in fake influencers, controlled assets, politicians, puppets. That's the first move. Power is a function of 4 things: money, physical control over your body, celebrity influence, and politics. They run those, they run the world. Now subtract truth from power, and what do you get? Deception. That's how they distort reality. And right under it, mirror and face. They mess with your perception and identity. Then you got music. Names on the board, Amen, Mimi. Could be handlers, could be signals. Either way, music becomes frequency control. You don't just hear it, it programs you. Next up, time minus delay. That's delta T. It means this isn't instant. It's all delayed activation. Like a psychological landmine. You step on it today, it detonates next year. Then you get this, 13 and a half. 13? That's the bloodlines. Rothschilds, Rockefellers, all of them. They own the banks, the wars, the puppet governments. But the half? That ain't human. That's the hidden ruler, the ancient force, the god they serve. And this statue on the side? That's him. That's the half. Then you see this equation, dark plus brainy. That's the operator class. Black site minds, predictive engineers, or AI. These are the ones pulling the strings. This whole thing, it ain't a strategy. It's a summoning sequence, a ritual, a formula to wake something up. 13 runs the show, but the half writes the script. It's a god of sacrifice, control, and fear. And this right here, this is how they're calling him in.
Do you think it's still happening? Sacrificing people to this god.
Moloch. He's saying that whole thing on the chalkboard was a summoning of Moloch, I guess. So pretty wild, huh? I don't know if you guys remembered that about the Epstein chalkboard. I don't think there's any wide shots of it here in this video, but oh, you get the idea. Anyway, yeah, he was on with Alex earlier in the week. So pretty interesting. He's put out some interesting videos for sure. Joey Pepperoni. So I don't know. Sounds like a Italian pizza place, but I don't know. Anyways, yeah, have fun checking that one out. There's some interesting stuff going on there with that. That's on my X account. So it's the Diamond Report on X, the Diamond RPRT on there. So please follow along on there if you're on X already. And then, of course, Substack, which I've mentioned multiple times tonight. Please go there. Please sign up. Completely free. And you will just get the email blasted out to you when I send that later in the week. It'll probably be Tuesday, I'm thinking, but could be as late as Wednesday. But something to keep an eye on. And it will have all the links of all the articles that I mentioned tonight. And then any other things that I come across and think of, I will put in those newsletters and send them out to you guys. So again, it's a way to stay in touch with what I'm doing, and I certainly appreciate that. And if you want to help support the show, we do have Subscribestar and we do have Substack both. There's a couple of mechanisms in place there for helping out financially if you guys are so inclined. No pressure, but I certainly would appreciate that, and thank you guys for the ones who are helping, and I definitely will not forget that. You guys are really helping me big time, and I won't forget it. That's for sure. So that is going a long way toward me being able to pay the different subscriptions and bills and things that I have for keeping this show together. So it does take a lot of my time as well each week. And then, of course, we have the Diamond Report store with all the different goodies, from hoodies to stickers to coffee mugs and T-shirts and all kinds of stuff. So you guys can have a look there if you don't mind. Take a look, and the shop up there in the upper right corner, shop.thediamond.report. And yes, and the other things you can do if you want to stay in touch with what I'm doing, please subscribe. And again, totally free, YouTube and Rumble and BitChute and Brighteon. And on Band, we did make it to 100 people now. So we're right at 100 members. So you can join the Band group and take advantage of, sharing information in that group as well. And that is the Diamond Report on Band, BAND.us. So thank you guys for being here tonight. I really appreciate that, and appreciate all your time and energy and listening and putting up with me blabbing along for 3 hours or whatever it's been. So about 1 o'clock in the morning here, so I guess we'll wrap it up. But thank you guys for being here tonight, and know that I will be praying for you this week. The next show will be August 3rd. August 3rd, I do think that they're going to be kicking in the live stream software cost. So the live stream software that I use has been free up to this point, but they're going to start charging here pretty soon. I did find out it's going to run about $10 a month, so that's not too bad. But if anybody wants to step up and subscribe and help me with that, that's a little bit of a another leak in the many holes in the boat on a show like this. You have all kinds of different things that you have to plug to keep the show afloat. So it's just one of those things. They're going to start charging because I put the show out on 2 different platforms. So it's on YouTube and as well as Rumble. So they're going to start charging me for that starting very soon. I'm not exactly sure when. They said the 28th, which is ostensibly right now. So theoretically, I may have to pay that before next week's show. So anyway, I would like to keep the Rumble stream going. I know people like to watch it on Rumble, and I do like Rumble in that they don't censor. So that's good news. So I'd like to keep it going. But I do know that the live stream software platform will be charging about $10 a month for that, starting very soon. It may even be this week. So anyway, I'll let you guys know. But thank you guys, and thank you in advance if somebody wants to step up and help me with that. I would really appreciate that. But yes, I appreciate you guys being here, and I'll be praying for you guys this week, and please pray for me and my family as well. And we'll do it all again next week, which will be on the 3rd of August, starting at 10 Central. So we'll look for you guys then, and remember to stay close to Jesus and keep him front and center in your life, and keep your family close as well, and just continue to just pray for me if you don't mind, and pray for the show, and just know that I'll be watching out and praying for you as well. So that's what the Band group is for, really, is if you guys have any prayer requests, you can go in there and drop them in there either privately to myself or to other people, or post them publicly in there as well. It's public, but it's only to the members of that group. So if that makes sense. And now 100 strong in there. So anyway, and thank you to Miss Emily for being here tonight. I know she didn't necessarily feel 100%, but she was in there dropping in the links for me and stuff. So thank you for doing that for me. That's a big help, of course. And we'll wrap it up though, and we'll see you guys again next week. Love you all. Talk to you again real soon.